81 degrees today? Are they, nothing about it can be trusted. And that's even our like little home regional area, not the Sentinel. What's the one out of Manchester? The
Union Leader.
The Union Leader. You read it and it's just, I don't know where they're getting their stories filtered to them from, but it's just straight propaganda, even on the little level.
Absolutely.
And I can't believe anybody takes any of their personal information from it by which they guide their personal belief set.
Well, Jeremy Kauffman, who is the Free State Project Board of Directors member and the founder of both LBRY and was involved, I think, in Odysee to some extent as well, the video sharing services online. He filed, I guess, today up in Concord, along with Karlin Borchenko, for the Libertarian Party's U.S. Senate and gubernatorial races, the two of them. And he's
fantastic.
He's realistically not going to get any attention whatsoever on behalf of the mainstream media. One of his campaign advisors has been trying to reach out to, you mentioned WMUR, for listeners that don't know, that's basically the one TV station that New Hampshire has. Most places are used to having more than one. We get one.
We get one.
We're
just little.
Yeah, so they won't return phone calls.
Maybe we should
won't return emails.
We should all just call in to WMUR.
We should
you could try that.
We should get the listeners to call into WMUR.
Yeah.
How many people are listening that have telephones and can call WMUR in New Hampshire and say, hey, we want to hear more about Jeremy Kauffman, the libertarian, blah, 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 and Karlin Borchenko.
They got like a public tip line. That's how I would do it.
I presume they do. Yeah, most TV news stations do. But
phone floods have worked in the past.
The fix is in.
The fix is in all the time.
Always been the case, and it's one of the reasons why when you and I filed for office, Matt, and as I know you have done within the last day, and I did last week, we filed as Republicans because now I know I'm not going to get any attention because I'm running in a Republican primary against another Republican, and everybody knows I'm a libertarian. But you got some attention last time around because you made it through the primary.
I beat the one guy who always runs Republican. He's actually got a name for himself. His name's Jerry Sickles, right? Doesn't Jerry Sickles?
I thought you both ended up on the ballot.
Did we? I don't know.
You beat him, I think, in the votes.
Yeah, I came in with more votes than he had.
Yeah.
So.
But you got through the primary, and so you actually got some news media attention because you had an R next to your name.
That's right.
And so that's what makes the difference.
Is that like a pirate thing?
There is such a thing as the Pirate Party.
Oh, really?
They don't exist in New Hampshire that I'm aware of, but it is a thing. It was founded in, I don't know if it was the Netherlands, somewhere in Europe, out of Sweden or something like that. They basically stand for the end of intellectual property. That's kind of their main thing. And they take some pretty anarchist
this was the Pirate Bay people, right?
Well, I don't know.
I don't want to like directly associate them per se.
I don't know if they per se were involved in the founding of it. The guy who was the most well-known is a guy named Rick Falkvinge.
How did you say that?
I know.
Don't say it again.
I've met him in real life, so I know how to pronounce his name. But he was at Anarchapulco a couple of years. And good, pretty decent guy.
Gotcha.
But yeah, if you like alternative parties and you don't like the libertarians for whatever reason, the Pirate Party's a thing.
In New York, I'm from New York originally, and there are like a dozen political parties, and the ballots are flooded. But here in New Hampshire, we have D or R.
Like back in Rhode Island, there was this guy. He was really fed up with like Pawtucket, Rhode Island, specifically, and he started his own party called Sick of Scandals. So
nice.
It was great.
Is it still going?
I don't know if he ran again, but
it's hard.
You could just name your party anything.
Can you actually get on the ballot, though?
Yes, it says Sick of Scandals next to your name.
Well, that's pretty decent.
If you want that sort of thing.
Because it is difficult to get third parties on the ballot in a lot of places. Anyway, if you want to comment, you're welcome to join us here. Somebody in the chat room pointing out that the U.S. House has passed a gun control bill, and I did see some of the details on that. It looks pretty ugly. Have you been following that at all, Matt?
A little bit.
All right, we can talk about that coming up, too. The number is 603-283-6160, because I imagine it's going to pass the Senate. And that's not going to be good for gun owners in the United States. Will it actually encourage them to secede? That's the ultimate question. You can join us here and bring up what you want on Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, You are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Fact. The new NSA data center in Utah requires 1.7 million gallons of water every single day to operate. Billions of Fourth Amendment violations need massive computers and the water to cool them. That water is being supplied by the state of Utah. Fact. There's absolutely nothing in the Constitution which requires your state to help the feds violate your rights. Our message to Utah: turn it off. No water equals no NSA data center. Visit offnow.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. Coming up, the details on the gun control legislation package that they're working on in D.C. Maybe it won't make it through the Senate. We'll tell you a little bit more about that coming up here. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian,
Matt,
and Joa.
Phones are open as always, and if you really want liberty in your lifetime, our co-host Mark, who should be rejoining us here in the next couple days for a few weeks. He's coming back to New Hampshire for a bit.
Nice.
He's going to be speaking. That's before he goes on a tour. He's going to Vegas for Freedom Fest. We can tell you about that a little bit later on. But also, the Free Cities Foundation is having their annual conference called Liberty in Our Lifetime in Prague from October 21st through the 23rd. They'll be showcasing autonomous cities and intentional communities that are springing up around the world, offering opportunities for settlers to live freer lives. The conference theme is Parallel Structures for Progress, and they'll explore physical developments and parallel structures emerging in education and finance that offer alternatives for people looking for better ways to learn, educate their children, and invest in the future. Free Private Cities is offering Free Talk Live listeners a 20% discount on tickets, which you can get by using code FTL20 at the checkout. Go to lifetimeliberty.com, use code FTL20, and go to Prague from October 21st through the 23rd. If you want to follow the conference on Twitter, their handle is @LibertyIOL, as in Liberty in Our Lifetime. And you can get your tickets early to get the early bird discount, plus the 20% off with code FTL20 at lifetimeliberty.com. So we're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts here to kick things off on the phones. We got Renee calling us from Louisiana. Renee, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead. Sorry, Renee, we got you now. Go ahead. Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it radio friendly, but I'm curious because in one of my coworkers, I met lots of people. How come is it that, like in LGBT community, when a man aspires to be a woman, they try to be as beautiful as possible, friendly, sexy, and nice, and they're nice to women that they're trying to, they want to be. Yet, on the other side, if a woman aspires to be a man, sometimes they're nice people, but sometimes they're like full of toxic masculinity, like, and then they dress bad, like they have man hate. Okay. Why is this disparity?
Let me see if I'm following what you're asking here. You're asking when a woman, somebody born biologically as a woman, is transitioning to become a man.
No. I mean, sometimes, but they're biologically a man, but they sometimes get operations like Bruce Jenner, and he tries to look pretty, or RuPaul looks like a very good-looking woman. I think it's just dressed. Yet on the other aisle, sometimes when the woman wants to be a man, instead of being friendly to men or trying to be a handsome, good-looking man, they dress bad and they actually are toxic and confrontational with men.
Okay, I thought
they want to be.
I feel like I was understanding what you were saying. You're talking about someone who's a biological woman trying to then transition to be a man. You're saying you don't like how some of them behave?
No, it's a disparity. Like the one that tries to be the woman does the best job they can. They're friendly to women. Yet the one that wants to be a man, sometimes they're nice to men.
I gotta say, I've never met one. I've met some people who are biologically male who are transitioning to female. Aria DiMezzo, for instance, is.
I was gonna say,
is on our show.
My co-host here, Ian, speaking. He actually has a pet tranny, and
you're talking about Aria.
Yeah, and Aria would be a really good person to ask that question, because if anybody's more
she's probably met somebody.
Probably she's probably deeper into that community than we are.
Might I switch to gun control then if I don't have the right
sure, but Joe, have you ever encountered a female transitioning to a male? And
if I did, I wouldn't have known. But
maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't.
I met some didn't have the money. I have coworkers like that. Some of them are nice people, and some of them have this toxic masculinity.
Maybe they feel like that's what they got to do to prove themselves, right? Like they want to be a man, so they feel like that's how they act like a man.
They pressure themselves to be like that masculinity, and let's get to their head. Is that what you're trying to say?
What's that, Renee?
It's even as that's real toxic masculinity. It's toxic masculinity that even men don't like from another man. That's the kind of stuff you have fights over.
Well, they can't really fully relate sometimes. I'm just trying to play the little devil advocate there. I'm not really sure. I've never experienced that.
The catcalling, the bullying, I mean, there's some are very nice people, but sometimes they come out with the bullying like what a bad man would do. What a
Do you?
hateful man
I mean, how many of these have you met?
Let's see. 1, 2,
Wow.
3, 4.
They seem so uncommon. Are they really
5.
common down in Louisiana? Because, like, I don't know. Maybe they're just
I guess
that
so.
well.
I mean, I've worked with some. I had confrontation with some. I mean, one coworker, I'm in the hot sauce plant, and she told me something like you'd say in prison. And then when I got derogatory with her, she cried wolf and said to the woman supervisor, I'm not talking to her like a lady, but you're not talking like a lady. You're talking like the other guy in prison with me, with the dirty remarks you use.
And this is at the hot sauce plant?
Yeah, different places. I worked at a hot sauce plant. Now
awesome.
I'm driving a trash truck.
What did you want to say about gun control?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, gun control. Guns are very useful. I mean, it counts on the people. You know, the left, I mean, I know you're libertarian, but the left, the bad part about, I just don't like the left. The right's pretty bad too, but I don't like the left. They want to control guns, but the proof is in the pudding. They want to control fossil fuel because we're hurting the planet. Next thing you know, they're going to control texting. We won't be able to have our phones like little kids because we wreck with them and we text.
Oh, no. They love people having phones. It's a way to control people. They think that, the phones are basically an adult pacifier, and they're very, very useful to the state.
And they can also hack into them and watch what you're saying and things like that. They love for people to have phones.
Thank you, Renee, for the call tonight. I do appreciate hearing from you. And they can... Of course, they can monitor where you are at all times because
they can basically control a lot of decisions because a lot of people are, I don't know how do I put it, short-minded, like they short attention spans. So that way, like if they can get their phone to distract them on something, maybe they wouldn't go on down that rabbit hole. Or just for instance, not so much a conspiracy, but like literally they try to get us distracted into their routines so that they can market us.
If you want to weigh in here, you can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. He did mention gun control. That, of course, is heavy in the news. You had Matthew McConaughey showing up at the White House this week. Awfully coincidental that he happened to be born in Uvalde, Texas.
I know. What's up with that? I wonder what the conspiracy theory world says about that.
It seems pretty obvious, right? Like, I think the conspiracy would be that the guy who did the shooting was, mind controlled or whatever by the federal government into doing it, and specifically in Uvalde.
Easy to believe.
Because Matthew McConaughey
is wacky. He was kind of like Johnny Depp on The Stand recently.
McConaughey?
Yeah, he seemed kind of wacky.
He's definitely crazy. I mean, he wants to control you, and he's a psychopath. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The British government says it's deeply concerned after 2 of the country's nationals, along with a Moroccan, were sentenced to death today by pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. The court case was held in the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, which only Moscow recognises as independent. UK nationals Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner and Moroccan national Saudun Brahim had been fighting in the Ukrainian military before being captured in Mariupol by Russian Russian troops. FSN's Ollie Barrett with more from our London bureau.
We have words from a spokesman for Number 10, deeply concerned. We have said, goes on the statement, continually that prisoners of war shouldn't be exploited for political purposes. It talks then, the statement, about the Geneva Convention, which says that prisoners of war are entitled to combatant immunity and shouldn't be prosecuted for participation in hostilities.
A Republican candidate for the post of governor in the American state of Michigan has been arrested by the FBI, accused of participating in the January 6th insurrection on Capitol Hill last year. The arrest of Ryan Kelly came on the day Democrats are planning to hold a congressional hearing into the riots that will be screened to primetime TV audiences in America. The House committee investigating the uprising says the 90-minute event will reveal new evidence proving that former President Donald Trump was at the center of efforts to overturn the 2020 election. From FSN's Washington bureau, Kate Fisher reports.
The Democratic-led committee says it wants to create a definitive account of the riot and the attempts to undermine the 2020 presidential election results. Officials say the vast majority of the material to be presented has never been seen by the public before. The first law enforcement officer to be injured by rioters and a filmmaker who documented some of their movements and violence will give live evidence. A former TV executive has been brought in to help with the presentation, which is expected to be tightly scripted, unlike normal congressional hearings, which can be chaotic or monotonous.
Meanwhile, a new poll has shown most Americans expect inflation to worsen in the coming year. The survey for the Washington Post and George Mason University found that 90% of voters have changed their spending habits as a result of the ravages of inflation. An explosion at a liquefied natural gas plant in Texas is worsening concerns about global gas supplies as countries in Europe and elsewhere turn their back on Russian energy exports. From FSN's bureau in Austin, Tony Waterman reports.
Freeport LNG hasn't disclosed the extent of the damage, but images show a massive fireball shooting up into the sky. The plant's closure threatens to further roil gas markets, especially in Europe, which in the past few months has bought roughly 70% of Freeport's supplies.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phones are open here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, it's Ian, Matt,
and Joa.
Of course, you can bring up anything you want. Coming up here tonight, Joe, you wanted to talk about a guy named Ryan Kelly.
Yes.
Who is that?
So he was running for gubernatorial candidate in, was it Michigan here, I think? Yes, in Michigan.
And he got arrested?
And he was arrested by the FBI on Thursday, so today, and charged with several misdemeanors over his alleged participation in the pro-Trump protest, Capitol Hill, January 6th. You know how it goes. You know, they're taking them all down, you know. Which this came after, hours before the Democrats kicked off a congressional hearing into the protest. So they must have, you know, found out new information during all this, and you know, probably one of the lefty congressmen was like, "Hey, FBI, might want to know this," or something to that nature. What I heard is Kelly was claiming that it was from another protest they're trying to arrest him on, but that's not true.
Convenient timing, right after he files to run for office, they snatch him up.
Yeah, they got him for trespassing, disorderly conduct, physical violence, and destruction of U.S. property during the pro-Trump protest. Yes.
Is there what else do we need to know about this guy?
I mean, I wanted to talk about it because, you know, they're starting to take out political candidates. Now it's like, that's dangerous, you know, especially someone that's so influential, and you know, they're creating new political prisoners for people. For party politics, or just, you know, the political agenda in general. It's like, you have an opinion, you might get arrested for it now. So that's scary.
I mean, that's been around to some extent. Maybe it's getting worse now than it's ever been.
He's a governor. He's a candidate for governor. Like, he was the head running for the GOP in Michigan for that position. That's huge. I like you start doing this across the country, you're going to outrage so many people. This probably turned a lot of people.
I hope it did. I hope it did. I hope that people are so upset that they're sick and tired of the federal government and they're ready to say goodbye, because, I mean, there's no turning this around.
No, there never was any turning this
around. There's no voting your way out of this.
No, and there's no incrementalism. There's not going to be a slow creep back to whatever you thought was before. It's always going to be a downhill slide. This is the collapse.
You think so? This is finally the end of the empire? Are we there?
It's a big empire.
Mm-hmm. It might take some time.
Where the exact end, I think the term end is kind of a subjective idea.
Well, how will we know? How will we know that the end has happened?
When ask me, it's already done.
It's a personal, sort of battle to believe it or not. And if you remember going back when gas was $3 a gallon.
Oh, yeah.
You were saying to yourself, oh, my God, things are hitting the fan. And then, it's never going to stop. Well, it's not stopping. Are you going to believe it now? Because now it's $5 a gallon.
Yeah. I think you could really put a pin in the end of America as it was, as we all, as a classical liberal, as a constitutionalist, maybe might think of America as. It's probably over with the Act of 1871, Reconstruction and all those times right after the Civil War was fought. The United States was kind of ended, and they reconstructed into something that really didn't.
Okay, but what about this America? When is this one going to be ended?
They're gonna slow kill it as long as they can.
Sure, they're going to print out trillions of dollars, and they're going to milk as much value out of the people's savings as they possibly can. That's what they're in the process of doing right now.
Uh-huh.
But when will we know that it is finally crumbled, that it is over?
Maybe
I think it's an individual decision. I mean, I think everybody's going to have a different opinion on that. Yeah. Listen, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, it's already done. It's done. It's over with.
It's like you hear from so many people. You go out in the public and they're like, oh, this dollar's worth a lot less now. And like, yeah. It's, everyone knows that the dollar's worthless.
That's true, but they haven't given up on the government yet. They still, remember it was just 4 months ago or 5 months ago that we had the New Hampshire independence hearings here in New Hampshire, and the State House voted. Only 13 out of 400 state reps voted to not even just table the bill, let alone, they didn't even vote on the bill. They just voted, hey, don't put it on the table. And the rest of them, 380-something or whatever, voted, or 360 or something like that, because not all of them were there that day, voted to table the thing. They didn't even want to talk about it.
Right. Well, you could put this applies to pretty much anything. The leftists, right? They're anti-gun. No, they're not. They're very much pro-gun
in their hands.
But not just they don't really want it in their hands.
They want the government agents,
but they want the government agents to have them to enforce it. So they're not anti-gun.
No.
They're very much pro-gun and I call it misfires, because these cops get away with it all the time of killing people, especially if they're going to start doing gun raids. These people are not going to give up their guns. They're going to be shooting back. I'm not encouraging, violence, but life, liberty, and property, you start taking these things from people, you'd be stupid enough to be a cop at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I wouldn't want to be a cop right now.
It's getting harder and harder to find new recruits.
I'm sure I've heard that too, and I don't doubt it. And I've thought, in the past, from my experience, that cops fairly psychopathic type people on a personal basis.
Oh, absolutely.
You're talking about a 40% spousal abuse rate, right? So these are probably not people with their heads screwed on right in the first place, and I don't think they're very valuable people in our society.
They definitely don't know their oath to the Constitution. They don't know
say the very least.
They barely know what the First Amendment. They go free speech. No, there's 5 things to the First Amendment. Freedom of religion, freedom to petition, freedom of speech, and freedom to press, right to redress grievances, freedom of press, and they don't care. They only know oh yeah, freedom of speech. I heard that before. It's no, and then they barely know the Fourth Amendment at this point, because the Supreme Court has ruled that they can touch you and frisk you and search you because of suspicion. They don't care. Their morals are out the window. They're getting their paycheck. That's all they care about.
That's right. Speaking of the Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision, according to the New York Times, they have made it harder to sue federal officials for money in cases accusing them of violating the Constitution. As though it wasn't hard enough already. These bureaucrats have various different so-called immunities. And now, according to Adam Liptak at the Times, he says the owner of an inn on the Canadian border who said he'd been assaulted by a Border Patrol agent may not sue the agent for violating the Constitution by using excessive force, ruled the Supreme Court in a 6-3 vote along ideological lines, stopped just short of overruling a 1971 precedent, which was Bivens versus 6 unknown named agents, that allowed federal courts rather than Congress to authorize at least some kinds of lawsuits seeking money from federal officials accused of violating constitutional rights. But the basic message of Wednesday's decision in Egbert versus Boole was that only Congress can authorize such suits. So you can't just sue the government bureaucrats at the federal level without Congress saying it's okay.
Yeah, good luck trying to get a lot of lawsuits to get funneled through Congress. Yeah, right.
The case was brought by Robert Boole, the owner of a bed and breakfast in Blaine, Washington. He called the Smuggler's Inn. That's a pretty cool name for bed and breakfast.
Sounds like fun. I'm going to go.
Mr. Boole said he had served as a confidential informant for the federal government. Oh, that's not cool.
Loser.
Helping agents find and apprehend people crossing the border illegally. March 2014, he told Eric Egbert, a Border Patrol agent, that a Turkish citizen was scheduled to arrive at the inn. When the guest's car reached the inn, Egbert entered Boole's property without a warrant. Boole said he told the agent to leave, only to be thrown against a vehicle and then to the ground. Mr. Egbert inspected the guest's paperwork and found it to be in order. That night, the guest unlawfully entered Canada. Boole sued the agent, saying he'd violated the Fourth Amendment by using excessive force and the First Amendment by contacting the IRS and prompting an audit of Boole's tax returns. A federal trial judge dismissed the case, saying the Bivens decision did not allow the sorts of claims that Boole had pressed, and the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Ninth Circuit reversed that dismissal, allowing him to move forward. But now the federal Supreme Court has reversed the reversal and upheld the lower court's decision that no, this guy cannot sue the federal government for their corrupt agents.
Sovereign citizens.
There's more coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us and you can share your thoughts. Number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're in the middle of a story right now. Of course, you can bring up anything you want. This story is about a man who ran a bed and breakfast over on the Canadian border in Washington State. And his first mistake was being a snitch for the federal government.
Rule 1 of talking to the police.
Yep. That just brings them into your life.
Yep.
No matter how good that McDonald's looks in front of you, don't eat it.
That's right. He did, though. He did. And then he decided he wanted to actually stand up for his rights at one point when an agent with the Border Patrol decided that he was just going to come around and search his property, entering his property without a warrant. After the property owner, Mr. Robert Boole, told the man to leave, he did not. He was then thrown against the vehicle and to the ground. He apparently then sued, this property owner sued the agent, saying he violated the Fourth Amendment by using excessive force and the First Amendment by contacting the IRS, prompting an audit of Mr. Boole's tax returns. However, the Supreme Court has now ruled that he had no standing to bring that lawsuit.
Shocker.
We can tell you a little bit more about that, and your calls and thoughts are welcome. I do want to say thank you, by the way, to Libertariat, who is a Free Talk Live supporter. He's helping us out with the AMPS program. AMPS is advertise, market, promote, and support. It's a way for you to help us. Libertariat doing diamond level, which is way above what we ask for. We only ask $5 a month. He's doing quite a bit more, so thank you, Libertariat, for helping us out with that. AMPS, you can go over to our Patreon to sign up for that with your favorite debit card, credit card, or PayPal account over at amps.freetalklive.com. You get some cool benefits for doing so. And once again, thank you, Libertariat, over at amps.freetalklive.com. Let's go to the phones. To the fun, Sam is on the line in Ohio. You're on Free Talk Live, Sam.
Yeah, I was just curious, you, Ian, and I'm not for sure who else is there with you, but how did you guys discover your purpose for activism as a libertarian, like before you decided to move to New Hampshire or anything?
It's a good question.
Sure.
You guys want to feel? We got Matt and Joe in the studio here.
Yeah. Why don't you go first, Joe?
Okay.
All right. Well, I started discovering Ron Paul, and
in 2008.
2008.
Okay.
It was 2007 or late 2007. Then I became a delegate for Ron Paul. I saw Ron Paul in Rhode Island, and while waiting in line, I ran into Shem and Carla, and they introduced me to the Free State Project.
Nice.
Those heroes.
Then I got into Free Talk Live and listened to that for a while, and then finally made the move. Yeah, that's how I did it.
You were an activist, though, before you made the move. What was it that spurred you? Was it Ron Paul that got you into becoming the activist that you are?
Yeah, that was the awakening process for sure. Yeah. And just started, learning all the crazy conspiracies. That was literally how I started. And then I, started a YouTube channel and became like an activist and, filming cops and that sort of thing. And I always stuck to my principles.
Was there something in particular that that you found from Ron Paul that led you to the whole police accountability movement? Do you remember that connection?
Well, I mean, it's been expunged. But no, I got pulled over for smoking a little weed, and I was like, "This is baloney! Like, why am I getting like shafted here? Like, no, there's something else wrong here." So I'm looking up like, how to fight this and how to win, and then I was like, "Yeah, no, it's really true. This is real. This is reality."
Them screwing people,
and I found Ron Paul in that process because he was pro cannabis and
right.
So I was like, well, this is what I'd rather support. That's how it all started.
So it was really the police cracking down on you. And
I think that's really what made me start the awakening process.
That's what started the searching, and then you found
the rest of it. Written in the book of Joe history.
That's true for a lot of people too. A lot of people, they have to feel the state, and they have to really understand what it is.
Feel that hurt first. And then with me, I was just, I've always had kind of a libertarian bent. I didn't really know what that was. Never even heard the word. I was a registered conservative in New York State. We have,
Is there a party called the Conservative Party?
I was raised Republican, non-Christian, or anything. We're not religious or anything like that, but we're Republican. I believe in freedom, America, the Constitution, so forth. And I got into the Republican side of New York, and I realized these people aren't really like into freedom. So I said, next best thing must be conservatism, because that's closer to the right. Okay. So I went there, and I was like, these people are just a bunch of religious wackos. And I've always been interested in like conspiracy theory stuff and, UFOs and Bigfoot and all that kind of stuff. And I was on a website called rents.com one day. And rents.com is kind of an aggregator for all the weird stuff going on in the world at any given moment. And every once in a while, there's also a political article on rents.com. And this is probably mid-90s. And one of the things I found on rents.com was this guy, Lou Rockwell.
Okay.
And Lou Rockwell had been writing articles. And every time I opened one of those articles, I was like, man, this guy's awesome. Like, he thinks just like I do, this Lou Rockwell dude. And then I saw him refer to himself as a civil libertarian once. And I'm like, civil libertarian, that must be what I am too then. Nice. And after that, I found, very shortly after that, I found Ron Paul. Of course, Ron Paul and Lou Rockwell, very close friends. Right. Lou Rockwell's done a ton of work for Dr. Paul. And what was it? I think 2001, the What If speech came out by Ron Paul. And I was just like, okay, this Ron Paul guy's powerful. the man. And that was definitely the beginning of it for me. As far as New Hampshire goes, I had lost my job, and I had been sitting on a bunch of money that I had saved up, and I figured I'm just going to take the rest of the summer off. I'm watching YouTube videos, just screwing off, burning time, and I found this video where these nutty people in New Hampshire were going around a neighborhood, like this rundown neighborhood in Nashua, and it was kind of a scary place, but they were all carrying sidearms. And they were all picking up trash, and it was called Open Carry Trash Pickup with Dave Ridley.
Yeah,
and
the Ridley Report.
The Ridley Report, and I was watching tons of Ridley Report, and I was like, man, these guys are awesome. These guys are freaking great. That's such a good idea. You got these old people sticking their heads out the door saying, oh my God, those armed men, what are they doing? Oh, they're picking up the garbage on my yard? Thank you.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Ron Paul, I would never have discovered Dave Ridley. And then I got big into DaveRidley.
Yeah. Dave Ridley's the one that got me to...
He's done a lot.
He has. He's the one that got me to New Hampshire for sure. And what
Dave
I didn't
Ridley
realize...
The one who makes Liberty Block?
No. That's Alu Axelman.
Alu Axelman, different guy.
Oh,
also
that's
great.
what I was thinking of for a second.
Have you heard of Bitcoin Gandhi? Last year, he walked in support of the Crypto 6 from Keene.
He did. Amazing.
To Concord.
Amazing activism.
Yeah.
That's
Guy's
Dave Ridley,
incredible.
and he has the best. Dave Ridley perennially has the best activism.
Yeah,
He's
I mean, just year after year, he's one of the busiest.
He really is.
Most consistent.
Yep.
He doesn't burn out. He just
he
keeps on
doesn't.
going.
He's always done it, and he's a great guy.
Yeah. So it was Ridley Report. That's what clued you in.
Yeah.
And then you ended up coming. I remember meeting you at the Nightcap back in like 2011 or
That's
2012.
right. It's I rode my motorcycle up from New York just to check it out, and I actually I met Pete Eyre. And
From
that's
copblock.org.
From copblock.org. And I actually I was like, what's up with this dude? Why does he have a picture of Henry Kissinger on his shirt and it says enemy of the state?
Yeah.
And it was Murray Rothbard.
Yeah.
And like I would come to know that that's Murray Rothbard. I would end up reading a bunch of Rothbard. I was like, oh, okay, enemy of the state. I get it. But I thought it was Henry Kissinger. But I didn't understand Pete Eyre at first because he had Henry Kissinger on his
How long was it after you visited
2
New
years
Hampshire that you made the move?
Yeah,
Okay.
I actually planned on 2015. It was 2011. I set a goal for 2015 to make a move. I ended up getting an opportunity in 2013, so I jumped on, and I was 2 years early.
Okay. Sweet.
Yep.
And it's been a good almost decade now.
I can't believe it.
Wow. So that answers their questions, or your questions, Sam. My story, I'll try to keep short. I was in Florida. I found the Harry Browne campaign for president in the year 2000. He was the Libertarian Party's campaign candidate for 1996 and 2000, and his book, Why Government Doesn't Work, was instrumental for me. I mean, I was already somebody who didn't like to be told what to do, like from birth, basically. And that just solidified everything for me and why government was so bad. Really well-written book. In fact, he was a great author. He wrote How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World, which a lot of people swear by. Really great candidate, too. Probably the last great candidate that the Libertarian Party has had. They really haven't had a really good one since the year 2000. And he brought me into the party. I'm a Harry Browne libertarian. I got active in Florida and did a bunch of outreach and didn't get anywhere. I mean, I was reaching people. I was finding libertarians, but they couldn't be activated to do anything.
Right.
And so when I heard the idea of the Free State Project, I thought, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, let's go.
I came up for the recount back in 2008, and learned more about the Free State Project that time when I came up, and met Beverly Harris and the Hacking Democracy. That remember that? Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I've been involved for 12 to 14 years.
We'll bring Sam back and see what he has to say about
okay.
all this here in moments. It's Free Talk Live.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The British government says it's deeply concerned after 2 of the country's nationals, along with a Moroccan, were sentenced to death today by pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. The court case was held in the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, which only Moscow recognises as independent. UK nationals Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner and Moroccan national Saudun Brahim had been fighting in the Ukrainian military before being captured in Mariupol by Russian troops. FSN's Ollie Barrett with more from our London bureau.
We have words from a spokesman for Number 10, deeply concerned. We have said, goes on the statement, continually that prisoners of war shouldn't be exploited for political purposes. It talks then, the statement, about the Geneva Convention, which says that prisoners of war are entitled to combatant immunity and shouldn't be prosecuted for participation in hostilities.
A Republican candidate for the post of governor in the American state of Michigan has been arrested by the FBI, accused of participating in the January 6th insurrection on Capitol Hill last year. The arrest of Ryan Kelly came on the day Democrats are planning to hold a congressional hearing into the riots that will be screened to primetime TV audiences in America. The House committee investigating the uprising says the 90-minute event will reveal new evidence proving that former President Donald Trump was at the center of efforts to overturn the 2020 election. From FSN's Washington bureau, Kate Fisher reports.
The Democratic-led committee says it wants to create a definitive account of the riot and the attempts to undermine the 2020 presidential election results. Officials say the vast majority of the material to be presented has never been seen by the public before. The first law enforcement officer to be injured by rioters and a filmmaker who documented some of their movements and violence will give live evidence. A former TV executive has been brought in to help with the presentation, which is expected to be tightly scripted, unlike normal congressional hearings, which can be chaotic or monotonous.
Meanwhile, a new poll has shown most Americans expect inflation to worsen in the coming year. The survey for the Washington Post and George Mason University found that 90% of voters have changed their spending habits as a result of the ravages of inflation. An explosion at a liquefied natural gas plant in Texas is worsening concerns about global gas supplies as countries in Europe and elsewhere turn their back on Russian energy exports. From FSN's bureau in Austin, Tony Waterman reports.
Freeport LNG hasn't disclosed the extent of the damage, but images show a massive fireball shooting up into the sky. The plant's closure threatens to further roil gas markets, especially in Europe, which in the past few months has bought roughly 70% of Freeport's supplies.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, more from The Guardian's foreign correspondent Luke Harding, who is currently in Kiev after just completing a reporting trip to the Donbass region of eastern Ukraine. Yesterday, we heard about the scale of the devastation that he encountered there, and it's led him to conclude that there will be no easy fix to this crisis, and that the world needs to prepare for a long, grinding conflict ahead.
It's going to be a long, bitter grinding war. I don't see any resolution this summer or indeed this year. Putin's war aims keep changing. Originally he wanted to seize Kiev, that didn't work. Now he's concentrating incredible firepower on the eastern theatre. But you know, the Ukrainians, if they had the right weapons, they say that they could sort of seize back the south, which they've lost, and the coast towards the Sea of Azov. But for now, they're just holding their position, but at sort of terrible cost. But they're motivated. I mean, they say we're defending our homes, our kids, our wives, our loved ones, and the Russians are just fighting for money. I mean, that may be true, but there are more Russians and they have more weapons.
The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres warned on Wednesday that the global consequences of the war are intensifying, with parts of the world facing what he called an unprecedented wave of hunger due to Russia's blockade of Ukrainian ports. He predicted social and economic chaos ahead. The main news again, the British government says it's deeply concerned after 2 of the country's nationals, along with a Moroccan, were sentenced to death today by pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. A Republican candidate for governor in Michigan has been arrested by the FBI, accused of participating in the January 6th insurrection on Capitol Hill last year. And 9 Americans in 10 say they've changed their spending habits in order to overcome the ravages of inflation. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
The military's newly developed unmanned Pentagon spokes drone completed its first live mission today, successfully carrying out a press conference on the war in Iraq. The mobile press engagement unit is being hailed by Pentagon officials as a revolutionary advancement in protecting military personnel.
The spokes drone proved effective at neutralizing reporters' questions about 85% of the time.
Many officials say the unit has the potential to save countless careers. Using a high-tech gimbal camera and microphone system, the unit tracks reporters' movements and audio output, then analyzes the data to assess the threat level.
It formulates and deploys an effectively vague response.
We have taken away a number of the enemy sanctuaries and gained initiatives in the areas. Eileen.
Military technology experts see the unit as adaptable to a wide variety of treacherous interview scenarios. They estimated it could even withstand situations too hostile for any human spokesman to bear, such as anti-war documentary interviews.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here as we kick off the second hour of the program. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Tonight, it's Ian,
Matt, and Joa.
And, of course, you can bring up anything you want. That is the point of the program. We bring stuff to the table to discuss as well, and we get the chance. We'll talk more about the Border Patrol. And now, apparently, you know, it's even harder than ever before to sue government bureaucrats who abuse you physically and violate your property rights. But none of us should be surprised by the recent 6-3 Supreme Court decision in that way. But we actually have Sam on the line with us. He's calling from Ohio, and he's a younger liberty-minded person who has some questions. He'd asked us about basically how was it we found purpose? What was it kind of, what's the origin story, right? Like, how did you end up caring enough about freedom to where you were willing to do something about it? And Joe,
and the reason why I was
go ahead.
Sorry. And the reason why I was asking that is because I kind of feel like a lack of purpose after I lost my job during COVID, and I very clearly can tell that you obviously have a purpose in life towards your activism towards liberty. And since I was thinking about that tonight, that's kind of what made me think to ask.
Yeah, okay.
Well, there's plenty of purpose to go around if that's what you're into, bud, because the work is just getting started.
Yeah, it's not really work that pays real well generally.
No. Right.
You know, activism isn't something that can usually replace a job. There are some very, very few activists are able to actually survive off of their activism. I mean, you mentioned Dave Ridley, Joa.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy has always been a super frugal person. I mean, right now he doesn't even have a car. So
I believe that a third of his diet on his hike there was maple leaves. So.
Just that he foraged, right?
Yeah, unless people brought him food.
Yeah,
basically.
So I mean, it is a bit of a hand-to-mouth existence. Being
I tried to give
full-time.
him tuna on his walk.
Okay.
I have these little tuna snack packets I take everywhere. I mean, he wouldn't take them because Gandhi wouldn't have eaten those.
Really? He was really
like,
in the character.
Yeah, well, yeah, he saw those tuna snack packets. I was like, that's tuna snack packets, Ridley, you want? He's like, oh, yeah. So, yeah, he's totally in character with his Gandhi accent and stuff. And he's like, no. Gandhi wouldn't have eaten those. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, but Bitcoin Gandhi ate my tacos when I brought him.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. He must have been really hungry. So, I mean, but of course, most people aren't full-time activists. It's not a sustainable activity generally, but they, you know, like Matt, you've got a full-time job.
Yep.
You do a thing. And,
I have a business. I have more than
right.
a full-time job. I'm constantly on duty.
Yeah, so, but
what
you
I'm
managed
trying to get to the point. Oh, sorry.
Well, regardless, he does manage to do things. So you filed for office this week. You're
I
gonna
did.
run for state rep here in the Keene area, which isn't. It sounds like it's a time-consuming thing. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it.
Yeah,
which is nice.
and to the caller, you know, you mentioned he's probably pretty young, dude. I recommend if you want to have time to do things like run for office and be available for stuff like that, run your own business, be your own hustle, never
Don't
let
work
up
for
on the
someone else.
hustle.
Right.
Don't have a job. Start a business of some kind. Start several businesses and start to concentrate on the one that's making you the most money, and you're starting to get on the right track at that point.
Well, I guess I did get into activism as a full-time job. I didn't ask for it. Someone asked me, hey, do you mind filming this? And I was like, yeah. So I walked across the street and started filming. Next thing you know, I got a viral video. And that's how my YouTubing career started. And I was able to do it full-time for a while and got paid more than full-time jobs that I ever worked for.
Nice.
For a bit.
That's the way to go.
For a bit.
Very nice.
But, that kind of wears you out. Activism wears you out.
It does. It does. What else did you want to say about it, though, Sam?
I guess I'm just kind of trying to think about the fact of that, like, it seems very depressing the state of the world is in, but you always manage to seem to be upbeat and happy about it, and, like, it's kind of the way I want to be, and so that's the reason why I was thinking about it.
You can do it, dude.
Yeah.
You can do that.
When you're on the right side of things, that is enough motivation to keep you going.
Yeah, and don't let people get you down. Don't let circumstances get you down. You got to be the shining star in the darkness, man. That is, the torch of liberty is a real thing, and you can have it, you can be it, you have to live it. And it's a good life. It's an honest life, man.
That's good advice. You get to control your reactions. You get to control your internal state. So no matter what's going on in the world, no matter how depressing it is, no matter how awful, how tyrannical it might be, they can't ever control your thoughts, and so you get to decide what those are. If you want to be brought down, if you want to feel depressed, then there's plenty of things to be depressed about. But if you can see reasons to be positive, if you can see a bright future, then hold on to that and keep your focus in the place where it feels the best. Thanks, Sam, for the call tonight. I appreciate it. Let's talk to Olivia. She's in Arizona. You're on Free Talk Live. Olivia.
Hey, I have two topics tonight. I have cops and UFOs. So
you called on the right night.
Oh, my God. I'm so excited for this call.
The cop story I actually shared on social.freetalk.live, but I wanted to give a
social.freetalklive.com.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I meant. A few blood-boiling details about the case. The title is Knoxville Cop Who Was Driving 90 Miles Per Hour Without Lights or Siren. Would He Kill Driver? Has Quit. So anybody wondering if the cops are your friends, just take this into consideration. Officer Cody Klingman was driving at 90 miles per hour without emergency lights or sirens when he plowed into a car and killed its driver, Mauricio Luna, 27, and his 3-year-old husky, CC.
Wow.
He was placed on temporary administrative leave because he's had multiple Class A violations of department policy, which could lead to termination at the discretion of the chief. But he was never.
Yeah, is it still questioning it?
Yeah, it might.
Yeah, he was never pulled from active duty, and he was allowed to resign without being fired.
He belongs in prison.
He does. And here's the best part. The district attorney's office, because his family has obviously filed a lawsuit, the district attorney's office said that although Officer Klingman was traveling exceptionally fast and didn't have his lights or siren on, which is both against the law and department policy, those two factors did not create a risk of such nature and degree that injury or death was likely or foreseeable. And the DA's office also put the blame.
Well, we should be able to use that in any speeding case that we have.
Right.
Then
I'm going to use it.
They also put the blame on Luna, saying that Mauricio Luna, who was T-boned at 81 miles an hour and killed instantly, failed to yield and pulled out directly in Klingman's path. So and he created the likely and foreseeable risk of death.
Wow.
So, yeah. That just
Do we know where he was T-boned? Was he at an intersection?
The details are in there, I believe so. But he didn't. They were coming so fast, evidently, and I think it might have been dark that he didn't see them.
Do lawyers have to be such bad people?
Yeah. They always look for these little nuances to get off on these little
all
things.
the time.
Yeah, I like the part.
I'm sorry.
The part that you mentioned, Olivia, deserves a little bit more of a focus here, and that is that they let him resign rather than firing him. That is one of those you're in the club kind of buddy things that they do for one another, the professional courtesy of, well, this looks pretty bad for you, Officer so-and-so, so we're going to go ahead and let you resign. And that means that he gets to keep any kind of bonuses that might have accrued. If he's about to get, retirement or something like that, or it might even...
He gets to continue to rape the public.
Yeah.
And retire.
Yeah, and we don't know where he is in his career, but it doesn't put a black mark on his record in the same way that firing would. So he could then easily get hired by another police department.
I'd like to know what kind of physical condition he's in, though. He T-boned somebody at 90 miles an hour. I can't imagine that he walked away from that either.
Good point.
Hey, all I gotta say is
he's had
Sorry,
he's had multiple Class A violations too. This isn't the first.
Yeah, he's a repeat offender.
Something dangerous. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, back the blue until it happens to you.
Let's talk about UFOs, though.
All right.
You can't just come on here and say something about UFOs and then drag that out to the last second. We gotta have time to talk about that.
I wish it was something really exciting, like a personal experience, but so I was watching it. Do you want me to hang on till after?
Yeah, I definitely want to hear more about what you got there, Olivia. The number is 603-283-6160. We get our resident UFO expert in the studio here. Matt has been very interested in those things for quite a long time. The number is 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. And this is Free Talk Live. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Do you know the difference between erudite and pedantic? If you do, you're probably pedantic. But seriously, a surprising number of erudite people mispronounce erudite, which has 3 syllables, not 4. Say erudite, not erudite. Because you are judged by how you speak, you want to avoid common misstatements, especially if you're a job seeker. For instance, do you know the difference between imply and infer? Only a speaker can imply. Only a listener can infer. And when you say you'll be out of pocket, do you mean out of touch? Out of pocket means you're on your own dime, not yet reimbursed. And if anyone ever asks, why do you always answer a question with a question? You should reply, do I do that? Just kidding. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight in the studio, it's Ian,
Matt, and Joa.
And Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bitcoin.com. You ready to start learning about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash? Might be a good time to do it. Head over to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started at the top of the page. You'll find some introductory videos there that you can watch at your leisure. At the very least, you should watch the first one. It'll take you, I think, all of 3 minutes, and you get some really important basics down when it comes to the there's some new ideas here in the world of cryptocurrency, and you ought to learn those before you decide to jump in with any money. Go to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started at the top of the page to do that. If you want to get the latest news headlines about crypto, they've got those over on their news site. That's news.bitcoin.com. We go to Olivia. You had something to say about UFOs. Go ahead, Olivia.
Well, now I've got two things because I didn't realize Matt was an enthusiast. But the first one was I was on YouTube, and I kind of like to watch some UFO stuff every once in a while. And I came across this video called How Did Bob Lazar Get All This Right by Strange Files. And underneath the video, you know how they used to have those little COVID banners that said, here's a link to the CDC, this would be misinformation. Well, under the video, it says context. Area 51, Encyclopedia Britannica, and it's got like a blurb from the Encyclopedia Britannica page on what Area 51 really is. So I just thought, now they're putting disclaimers on everything.
Wow, God.
And the second part for Matt was actually like last month or a couple of weeks ago, there was someone in the Free Talk Live YouTube chat who was calling themselves Valiant Thor, saying that they were from a testing ground in New Mexico. Now, I don't know if this is true, but that's kind of interesting, and they gave details of Valiant Thor's spaceship that's allegedly, they said it was a true story. I don't know if it was a prankster or if it was a real deal, but I thought that was kind of neat.
So wait, they were saying that the Valiant Thor is somebody who came here from afar and they landed a spaceship?
Yes, this is an old story from like the 1950s, 60s during the Eisenhower administration. Allegedly, there were some Venusians who came here to help Earth avoid a nuclear war, and one of them was called Valiant Thor. There's a book called Stranger at the Pentagon. There's also another one called Outwitting Tomorrow. They're free on archive.org.
Wasn't this you called about this one book before, and it was supposedly god-awful. We looked at some of the reviews where apparently this supposed Venusian was here just to talk about Jesus Christ, and it was like, it doesn't really
this
seem
story.
like,
I think I remember that story as well.
Doesn't really seem like something a real alien would be pushing.
Yeah, but like for a little doubt there is that a lot of people think the Bible is, they're talking about these angels is actually aliens. So
or demons.
Maybe Jesus was an alien.
Could be.
Maybe the ancients were misinterpreting some things that they were seeing in the sky and ascribing mythologies to them or something.
This might be true.
I know the UFOs are there. I mean, I've seen at least 33 of my, 18 of them were at once.
Whoa.
So subtract 18 from 33 and all the rest were singular, one at a time over the years. But
you know what looks like flying saucers too? Mushrooms. And I think they're all eating mushrooms.
You think so?
Yeah, I think Jesus was a mushroom.
You think Jesus was a mushroom?
Yes, he was born in a
It may have
manger
been.
in a
There's
dung.
there's
Right.
the stoned ape theory, right? Is what started civilization, started the incremental intelligencing of the human monkey a long time ago. They started eating hallucinogenic mushrooms.
There's a whole book Bonnie and I read by Terrence McKenna all about that. And how the humans over time have been eating hallucinogenic mushrooms, and that's what led us to be able to speak to one another.
Yeah, the Pope dresses like an Amanita muscaria mushroom,
Does he?
and there's a lot of
Got a red and white hat or something?
No, but we can find photos on you Google or whatever if we search Pope/mushroom or whatever.
Like reindeer, they dig feet into the snow below Christmas trees, what we consider Christmas trees, to find mushrooms so they can trip.
Yeah, the idea of decorating a Christmas tree, I think, from what I understand, was these Norse holy men would walk up into the mountains and they'd find Amanita muscaria mushrooms and they would pick them and they'd put them in the boughs of a tree to dry.
Or in socks, and they would hang them over their fireplace to dry them.
There you go. And then they'd have a festival of them and everybody'd start eating tripping mushrooms. And
it's so magical.
Yeah,
Christmas time. It's so magical.
The funny thing is, the Amanita muscarias aren't even hallucinogenic, right? They are actually poisonous, and it causes your brain to release a hallucinogen.
Really?
Yeah, something like that. And that's where the whole idea of the religions came from, at least the Judeo-Christian ones.
If you want to weigh in, feel free. The number is 603-283-6160. You can, of course, bring up whatever you want. We were talking earlier about some people that do need to trip. The Supreme Court, they unfortunately are really stuck-up individuals, and they will do whatever it takes to protect their protectors, which, of course, the police, because the police aren't here to protect you. They're here to protect the state, and they're here to protect the courts, and they're here to protect the legislatures, and they don't care about your rights.
Sounds like a vicious cycle, doesn't it?
Yep. And now they've done it again with a 6-3 vote where they basically said that a Border Patrol agent was completely justified in attacking a man after illegally entering his property without a warrant. And the man who owned the bed and breakfast in this particular case, Mr. Robert Boole, was not able to sue. And they said, nope, no, you can't sue. Justice Clarence Thomas, writing for 5 of the justices in the 6-3 decision, said the court has only twice extended the previous case that the previous case that limited your ability to sue the state, the federal government specifically, which concerned the unconstitutional search of a home in Brooklyn, most recently in 1980. In Boole's case, Thomas wrote, quote, "The Court of Appeals plainly erred when it created causes of action for Boole's Fourth Amendment excessive force claim and First Amendment retaliation claim," unquote. He wrote further that courts should focus on a single question in such cases. Is there, quote, "any reason to think Congress might be better equipped," unquote, "than a court to weigh the costs and benefits of allowing suits against federal officials for money?" In particular, Thomas wrote, "The national security interest in border security distinguished the case before the court from ordinary Fourth Amendment violations." Justice Gorsuch voted with the majority, but said he would have gone further. The court, he wrote, quote, "should forthrightly return the power to create new causes of action to the people's representatives in Congress." But again, why would they create any new causes of action? Why would Congress make any motion whatsoever to actually endanger the jobs of these Border Patrol agents or other federal agents? They're not going to make it easier to sue these people.
Right.
Sotomayor, who's joined by Breyer and Kagan, agreed that Boole could not pursue his claim under the First Amendment, but she wrote that a Fourth Amendment claim based on the agent's excessive use of force was permitted by the previous case. But again, they were in the minority. They were the three who voted to let him move forward, but they lost. She wrote that Boole's case, quote, "is a far cry from others in which the court declined to extend Blevins for reasons of national security or foreign relations."
It's funny because even the Supreme Court, they came with a ruling saying that the cops don't even have to protect your constitutional rights. It's not their duty for that. It's not there to protect and serve. And that's the Heian versus North Carolina. So there's case law for them to not protect you, and there's another case law apparently now that they can just violate you and get away with it.
Yep, that's how it is, and yet they still expect you to pay for them. They still expect you to bend over and do everything they demand of you.
It's not an expect. It's a demand.
Yeah.
It's not an expectation.
There's more coming up.
Demand.
It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
They're the mafia. They function like the mafia. They think like the mafia. They hire people who think like the mafia. The only difference is they put on a front that there's something legitimate and legal and valid about all of it.
Well, there's no Don in this particular mafia. The Don is the majority of people who went out and voted and then put their new Don in place. And sometimes the Dons change and sometimes they don't. Incumbents are very difficult to unseat, and but their henchmen stay in place the whole time. It's quite a sophisticated mob operation.
It is. Well,
that
it's
they
the
have.
mafia that is so successful that has so brilliantly pulled the wool over people's eyes that they've actually gotten people to give them their children so the mafia can educate them into believing that they need the mafia.
Right. We have free indoctrination camps. Schools for you to send your kids to.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The British government says it's deeply concerned after two of the country's nationals, along with a Moroccan, were sentenced to death today by pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. The court case was held in the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, which only Moscow recognises as independent. UK nationals Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner and Moroccan national Saudun Brahim had been fighting in the Ukrainian military before being captured in Mariupol by Russian troops. FSN's Ollie Barrett with more from our London bureau.
We have words from a spokesman for Number 10, deeply concerned. We have said, goes on the statement, continually that prisoners of war shouldn't be exploited for political purposes. It talks then, the statement, about the Geneva Convention, which says that prisoners of war are entitled to combatant immunity and shouldn't be prosecuted for participation in hostilities.
A Republican candidate for the post of governor in the American state of Michigan has been arrested by the FBI, accused of participating in the January 6th insurrection on Capitol Hill last year. The arrest of Ryan Kelly came on the day Democrats are planning to hold a congressional hearing into the riots that will be screened to primetime TV audiences in America. The House committee investigating the uprising says the 90-minute event will reveal new evidence proving that former President Donald Trump was at the center of efforts to overturn the 2020 election. From FSN's Washington bureau, Kate Fisher reports.
The Democratic-led committee says it wants to create a definitive account of the riot and the attempts to undermine the 2020 presidential election results. Officials say the vast majority of the material to be presented has never been seen by the public before. The first law enforcement officer to be injured by rioters and a filmmaker who documented some of their movements and violence will give live evidence. A former TV executive has been brought in to help with the presentation, which is expected to be tightly scripted, unlike normal congressional hearings, which can be chaotic or monotonous.
Meanwhile, a new poll has shown most Americans expect inflation to worsen in the coming year. The survey for the Washington Post and George Mason University found that 90% of voters have changed their spending habits as a result of the ravages of inflation. An explosion at a liquefied natural gas plant in Texas is worsening concerns about global gas supplies as countries in Europe and elsewhere turn their back on Russian energy exports. From FSN's bureau in Austin, Tony Waterman reports.
Freeport LNG hasn't disclosed the extent of the damage, but images show a massive fireball shooting up into the sky. The plant's closure threatens to further roil gas markets, especially in Europe, which in the past few months has bought roughly 70% of Freeport's supplies.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can join us. Bring up whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian,
Matt, and Joa.
And the Truth Smacks Trail Mix brand. You guys just got introduced to it tonight
We
Yes.
did.
I didn't ask you off the air what your thoughts were. So do you want to share your experience for the first time?
I liked it. You gave me the Trail Mix Supreme, which is like the regular.
Yeah, they got two flavors. There's just regular, and then
Yeah.
there's the peppermint infused.
So I was eating that and then swapped it with Matt with the mint one. I like the mint one. I ate it all.
Yeah, some people don't, for some people it's not right.
Yeah, I didn't like the mint one, but I'm not big on peppermint. But the regular Trail Mix Supreme is delicious.
It's killer.
Yeah, it's great.
I really love Truth Smacks. I'm glad we got a whole new box of it because I was missing having it.
Check this out.
Oh yeah.
On the front of the bag says Truth Smacks Trail Mix Supreme, and then it says, "In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act." George Orwell.
Yep.
You flip it over on the back. The men we detest most violently are those who try to tell us the truth. H.L. Mencken. And then it's got more like quotes down the line. It's
like a dozen quotes on the back.
Like these are educational stuff. These are what you should be feeding your kids right here.
Not just your kids, but their friends
And their
and,
friends, yeah.
and anybody else.
These are subversive little snacks.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Suzanne, she's a former English teacher and longtime truth seeker. She started her own trail mix brand. She's making it, bagging it, and sealing it herself in a commercial kitchen in Naples, Florida. And she's calling it Truth Smacks because, well, you smack people across the face with truth.
Truth Smacks.
Yeah, hit them through the stomach.
Brilliant.
And,
good for her.
It's pretty cool stuff. And the quality is fantastic. If you look at the ingredients on the back there, you'll see it's made with all raw, unadulterated ingredients.
Pretty simple.
Uh-huh.
The real stuff, only food as nature intended. You're not going to get some crazy soy or whatever nuts, whatever crazy stuff they're putting in some of the professional products out there.
It looks all organic
brands.
to me.
Yeah,
Except,
even the
natural flavor, but
even the oat flour, when they use dates and stuff like this, they coat it in oat flour. Even the oat flour that they coat the dates in is organic. Everything's organic.
She took her time to find good sources for products. Go
Sure
to
did.
truthsmacks.com/shop. It's available in two sizes. You guys got the kind of snacky size. It's like a 3.5 ounce. And I think they also have like a 10-ounce bag. So you can get two different sizes, two different flavors. Truthsmacks.com/shop. She said she's going to be at PorkFest coming up, by the way, so you get to meet her.
I can't wait to meet her.
In person. That's truthsmacks.com/shop. I'm a big fan. I love some good trail mix. And
Absolutely.
This is fantastic trail mix. Plus, you get the benefit of the pro-liberty quotes on the back.
Yeah, and I'm just happy to send money wherever there's like a Liberty person
Right.
backing it up. If it's a good product and there's a Liberty person behind it, that's where I want
That's
to
a
put
winner.
my money.
for real. Yeah.
So there you go. The number here, if you want to join us, it's 603-283-6160. Matt, you said you haven't been following the gun control stuff too close, but you are aware that something is going down at the federal gang.
Yeah, there is a lot going on right now. The Supreme Court alone has a lot going on right now. So any this new legislation they're trying to push through, it's ridiculous, by the way.
They voted 226 to 194. This is according to Gun Owners of America, to criminalize disassembling, cleaning, and reassembling your gun without a firearm manufacturer's license.
I didn't know that part. That's ridiculous.
Gun Owners of America, I presume they know what they're talking about.
They
right?
definitely do. They're fantastic.
So absolutely insane. That is nuts.
Looney Tune.
But you were going to say something else, I think, about this.
No, I would rather you went out. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. I don't even want to talk about it until more comes out. But the Supreme Court has several cases stacked deep, and some of them aren't even about guns. They're about other things completely that could impact the way federal agencies are allowed to act in the first place, including the ATF. So the ATF could actually, depending on how the Supreme Court rules on a bill that has to do with something, how a hospital had to interact with the FDA at some point or something, it's going to impact the way all the federal agencies act in accordance with their regulations that they make up on a whim and how they enforce things and stuff, including the ATF. So
House of Reps voted 220 to 207. This is reported as of yesterday. To put you at a disadvantage in self-defense scenarios, your magazine would only be able to have 15 rounds, while, of course, criminals and others will be disobeying that law. So put you at a disadvantage.
Criminals and others.
Yep. They voted 233 to 194 to pass a bump stock and bump fire ban. That's according to Gun Owners of America. They say that they passed 220 to 205, a bill to keep you from being able to access your firearm reliably in a self-defense scenario. When seconds count, your gun must be locked away. They voted 226 to 197 to ban straw purchases because apparently they forgot that was already illegal.
Straws?
Are you serious?
That's what it says here.
You could do spitballs. Yeah, you could do spitballs. It's kind of like a gun.
What is a straw purchase?
That's where a person buys a gun for another person who shouldn't have a gun.
Ah, okay. Yep, that's what they said here. All of this reported yesterday at the Gun Owners of America at Gun Owners on their Twitter account.
They're literally passing the same laws twice now.
Right.
They don't realize what there even exists already for legislation that is on the books and
because there's thousands of laws on the books already.
They don't really realize it. They're just
do it again. That way you can get the publicity, right? That way you can say you did something for the next election.
It's like they've got every moron leftist on the planet saying, we just want background checks for guns. You already have. Mm-hmm. You have had background checks for the purchase of a firearm for a long time, a very long time. I think they're preying on idiots. I think especially the left banks on people being morons, and they win that way. People are stupid. That's all there is to it.
The final little note here, they also voted to ban 18 to 20-year-olds from having semi-automatic rifles for home defense, while still allowing them to be drafted, of course, and sent overseas with machine guns.
And full autos and grenade launchers and
so
tanks.
The question is, what will happen with the Senate, right? So you got all these votes in the House. According to the Wall Street Journal, the House and Senate lawmakers were set to close the week without a bipartisan framework on new laws regarding gun violence, despite the flurry of action after recent shootings in Uvalde, Texas, and Buffalo. Negotiators don't have an agreement that could pass the Senate, where any bill would need significant bipartisan support. The Democratic-led House pushed through several bills intended to, quote-unquote, reduce gun violence. Of course, we know it will do nothing of the sort, including legislation Thursday that would incentivize states to pass extreme protection orders, whatever the hell that means. But those bills...
Red flag laws.
That's where anybody can just make a claim about you, a former girlfriend or something like that, and then the cops come take your guns, right? But those bills have... You can relate to that, right, Joey?
No
he
comment.
pleads the fifth.
No comment.
And New Hampshire doesn't even have a red flag law.
Nope.
But those bills have no chance in the 50-50 Senate, where legislation requires 60 votes to advance. Now, this is something I guess I don't know enough about how the federal system works. Why do they need 60 votes for something to get through the Senate?
I don't know either.
I've heard it recently. That's like,
maybe
that's
it's overturning a law.
No, it's to pass all of this stuff that we're talking about here.
Have they just taken like a poll ahead of time in the Senate to kind of get a feel for how many people are going to vote yes on this thing, and they find that
the
they're
Senate's
60
voting,
short?
50-50, right? Like it's pretty much divided equally between Republicans and Democrats, and they know they're not going to get enough. Like they got a few Republican reps to flip on these things, but they're not going to get 10 of the Republicans likely to flip and vote.
They didn't go to Jeffrey Epstein's island or something.
Yeah, right. They don't have something on them.
They don't have anything on them.
So right now, it doesn't look like they're going to get this stuff through. Although they're, of course, in the negotiations, they say here they're moving towards a so-called deal. So they may end up with some kind of
there's going to be some kind of
compromise.
capitulation going on there.
The number 603-283-6160. That's one thing you can say for sure, is you're not going to see an increase in respecting gun rights coming out of the federal government at any point. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can join us here if you want. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian,
Matt, and Joa.
Coming up, a horrifying near-death for somebody that was being hazed at a University of Missouri. We'll talk about what happened to him here in a few moments. But we're talking about some people in D.C. that could use a good hazing. The politicians that
tar and feathering
are destroying your freedoms as we speak. They're trying to cut some sort of a deal to crank the enforcement up on gun rights. And we can talk more about that as well. Of course, your calls are welcome. We're going to go to the phones and to your thoughts. First up, Dr. Piper is on the line in Tennessee. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, I just a couple of things. One was the Olivia was talking about the policeman, and I'm calling from Knoxville, Tennessee, and that crash actually happened like about a mile from my house.
Oh wow! Where was it?
Yeah.
This guy got T-boned by a cop at 90 miles an hour.
Well, the major thoroughfare that the cop was on was called Kingston Pike, and the person who turned on was coming from a side road, and obviously no lights or siren. How are you going to know that thing's headed towards you? You know,
right? So
and
they're trying to blame the victim here. They're trying to claim that this guy just pulled right out in front of this speeding cop. But is it your understanding that he had the right of way and he was just going and he wasn't like blowing through a red light or anything, was he?
And the fact that he had it occurred at a red light, near a red light.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, but he had no lights or sirens on, and obviously the DA ruled that didn't contribute. But he was also not wearing a seatbelt, and the driver that he killed was, so he should be written up for that at the minimum. But murdering someone is also bad. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that real quickly. And then the other thing was with the UFOs. Our state representative here in Tennessee, Tim Burchett, has been hounding Congress for a while about letting people know what they know about the UFOs and the military and everything, but he doesn't think it's going to turn up much. He's also the same guy that was really big into Bigfoot and was actually on an episode of The Search for Bigfoot. And all tongue-in-cheek, I'm sure.
As a politician,
really
that's
that.
pretty impressive.
Look, they want to admit to inflation. Think they're going to admit to aliens?
Yeah, right. Oh, and he also passed, when he was a state representative here, he in 1999, he passed what was called the roadkill bill that got some chuckles around the country. But, he was like, I'm driving, I pass 4 or 5 dead deer on the side of the road every day. I think it's a waste. People ought to be able to pick those things up and take them home and cook them. Cook you up a heap and help in there. So,
in New York, where I'm from in New York, if you hit a deer and you call the cops, you're supposed to call the cops and get a deer so they can put a tag on it to keep track of population of the herd. And if you call the cops and there's one nearby enough where they can get to you before you leave, they will ask you, you want it? They always ask you, you want it? That's upstate New York.
Now they've codified it here. You have a right to it. No pets. You can't do any dogs or cats or anything like that, but wildlife you're welcome to take home and eat. So there's that.
All right, Dr. Piper, anything else you want to share tonight?
Right. Two things. Welcome Nikki back and happy Bonnie Day.
It's Bonnie Day?
All right.
Oh, her birthday, you mean?
Her birthday.
Yeah, a couple days ago. All right, man. Hey, thanks for the call tonight. Right. Appreciate hearing from you. Let's go to Bad Slave. He's in New Hampshire. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hey.
Listen, you guys were talking about why the Senate needs 60 votes.
Yeah.
It's because of the filibuster. There's, it's different in the Senate. It's kind of a break on if there's one person in the Senate that just vehemently disagrees with legislation, as you've got, in order to override this filibuster, you have to have 60 votes.
I see. Okay, so and the filibuster is where somebody just gets up and talks and talks and talks, right?
So they can actually argue about these things. And
not that anyone's
railroad
listening,
them.
But yeah.
What?
Well, exactly. I mean, I'm supportive of interfering.
Sure. Yeah, if it works. I know Rand Paul has been known for doing some filibustering in recent times. So
he's pretty good at it.
Just to clarify, is the goal of the filibuster to run out the clock on whatever their current session is? Like they have to talk basically until the end of the meeting or whatever. Otherwise, they could then just vote 50-50?
The details I'm not exactly sure on. It's supposed to be like you just got to stand up and keep talking, you know. Sometimes they just get some long thing and just read it or whatever.
The filibuster, according to Wikipedia, is a powerful legislative device in the U.S. Senate. Senate rules permit a senator or senators to speak for as long as they wish and on any topic they choose, unless, quote, 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn, which would be 60 out of the 100, bring debate to a close by invoking cloture under Senate Rule 22. Even if a filibuster attempt is unsuccessful, the process takes floor time. Defenders call the filibuster the, quote, soul of the Senate, unquote. It's not part of the Constitution, becoming theoretically possible with the change of Senate rules in 1806 and not used until 1837. Rarely used for much of the Senate's first 2 centuries, it was strengthened in the 70s, and in recent years, the majority has preferred to avoid filibusters by moving to other business when a filibuster is threatened, and attempts to achieve cloture have failed. As a result, in recent decades, this has come to mean that all major legislation now requires a 60% majority to pass. So there you go. Bad Slave, thanks for the call tonight. Appreciate the heads up on that. The number here is 603-283-6160. But again, the question I guess that I still have is how long do they have to talk for? I presume it's just until they're done with whatever that time frame is.
I've seen it go like 3 days.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure.
There you go. 603-283-6160. You can bring up absolutely anything that's on your mind. Joe, you had a story tonight.
Yes.
The inflation numbers are about to come out again, so we're about to see what the May inflation CPI numbers, which we all know it's government manipulated, highly manipulated numbers, but they're still, regardless of the manipulation, they're still at record highs in the last 40-something years.
Absolutely.
So it'll be interesting to see how that transpires. I did just see in the news today that New Hampshire, which is where we do the show from, has a new record gas price high of $4.97 per gallon. So
nutty.
Almost to the point. In fact, some stations in New Hampshire are already above $5 a gallon for unleaded gas, but now the average in New Hampshire is about to go up there. Earlier this week, it was California stations were showing it close to 10, some of the stations out there.
In the desert.
You were there just a couple weeks ago,
Nikki and I were just out there. And
what did you see?
Well, I saw a V8 Camaro that I had to rent that takes 93 octane, and it drank gas like going out of style, but I also had a lot of fun driving it. But
what were you paying at the pump?
The cheapest I was averaging, I'd say I was averaging about $6.59 a gallon.
Nice,
Interestingly, I found 93 octane for $6.19 a gallon.
What a deal!
It was on a military base.
Oh wow! They just let anybody on there?
It was like just
Pennington?
off the base. I don't know. It was a military base. I also took a picture by Vandenberg Space Force Base.
Okay.
It's no longer Air Force Base. We learned. We saw the signs. Like, what's BSB or whatever it was?
Space Force.
Space Force.
Okay, so we know gas is up there, and it's at record highs across the United States. And turns out governments have to pay for that too, right, Joe? What's going on?
So this is from the activistpost.com. And gas prices are so high, police told to respond to 911 calls by phone. As in, they're not going to show up. And this is like, as the Supreme Court's taking your right to own a gun away.
Yeah. They're probably not going to show up anyway, but now it's official.
Yeah, or not do anything because the Supreme Court ruled that too.
You're probably better off if they don't show up because then they won't shoot your dog or your brother.
Or maybe
whatever.
you'll take responsibility in your own hands eventually.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. But yeah, so this is go a little bit down the article here. According to Michigan County Administrator Nicole Frost, who spoke with the Detroit Free Press, the local sheriff's office had already spent 96% of their fuel budget, with 3.5 months still to go until the end of the fiscal year.
Wow.
Yep. So they'll just call you back.
Well, they're just going to need to steal some more, right?
Yeah,
so they can just steal some more cars and houses from people and sell them and then use that money to buy some gas. But we can talk more about it. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. Hour number 3 is on the way, and you can bring up whatever's on your mind here on Free Talk Live. The number 603-283-6160.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
There are basically 2 types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station.
If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The British government says it's deeply concerned after 2 of the country's nationals, along with a Moroccan, were sentenced to death today by pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. The court case was held in the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, which only Moscow recognises as independent. UK nationals Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner and Moroccan national Saudun Brahim had been fighting in the Ukrainian military before being captured in Mariupol by Russian troops. FSN's Ollie Barrett with more from our London bureau.
We have words from a spokesman for Number 10, deeply concerned. We have said, goes on the statement, continually that prisoners of war shouldn't be exploited for political purposes. It talks then, the statement, about the Geneva Convention, which says that prisoners of war are entitled to combatant immunity and shouldn't be prosecuted for participation in hostilities.
A Republican candidate for the post of governor in the American state of Michigan has been arrested by the FBI, accused of participating in the January 6th insurrection on Capitol Hill last year. The arrest of Ryan Kelly came on the day Democrats are planning to hold a congressional hearing into the riots that will be screened to primetime TV audiences in America. The House committee investigating the uprising says the 90-minute event will reveal new evidence proving that former President Donald Trump was at the center of efforts to overturn the 2020 election. From FSN's Washington bureau, Kate Fisher reports.
The Democratic-led committee says it wants to create a definitive account of the riot and the attempts to undermine the 2020 presidential election results. Officials say the vast majority of the material to be presented has never been seen by the public before. The first law enforcement officer to be injured by rioters and a filmmaker who documented some of their movements and violence will give live evidence. A former TV executive has been brought in to help with the presentation, which is expected to be tightly scripted, unlike normal congressional hearings, which can be chaotic or monotonous.
Meanwhile, a new poll has shown most Americans expect inflation to worsen in the coming year. The survey for the Washington Post and George Mason University found that 90% of voters have changed their spending habits as a result of the ravages of inflation. An explosion at a liquefied natural gas plant in Texas is worsening concerns about global gas supplies as countries in Europe and elsewhere turn their back on Russian energy exports. From FSN's bureau in Austin, Tony Waterman reports.
Freeport LNG hasn't disclosed the extent of the damage, but images show a massive fireball shooting up into the sky. The plant's closure threatens to further roil gas markets, especially in Europe, which in the past few months has bought roughly 70% of Freeport's supplies.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, more from The Guardian's foreign correspondent Luke Harding, who is currently in Kiev after just completing a reporting trip to the Donbass region of eastern Ukraine. Yesterday, we heard about the scale of the devastation that he encountered there, and it's led him to conclude that there will be no easy fix to this crisis, and that the world needs to prepare for a long, grinding conflict ahead.
It's going to be a long, bitter grinding war. I don't see any resolution this summer or indeed this year. Putin's war aims keep changing. Originally, he wanted to seize Kiev. That didn't work. Now he's concentrating incredible firepower on the Eastern Theater. But, the Ukrainians, if they had the right weapons, they say that they could sort of seize back the south, which they've lost, and the coast towards the Sea of Azov. But for now, they're just holding their position, but at sort of terrible cost. But they're motivated. I mean, they say we're defending our homes, our kids, our wives, our loved ones, and the Russians are just fighting for money. I mean, that may be true, but there are more Russians and they have more weapons.
The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres warned on Wednesday that the global consequences of the war are intensifying, with parts of the world facing what he called an unprecedented wave of hunger due to Russia's blockade of Ukrainian ports. He predicted social and economic chaos ahead. The main news again, the British government says it's deeply concerned after 2 of the country's nationals, along with a Moroccan, were sentenced to death today by pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. A Republican candidate for governor in Michigan has been arrested by the FBI, accused of participating in the January 6th insurrection on Capitol Hill last year. And 9 Americans in 10 say they've changed their spending habits in order to overcome the ravages of inflation. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
According to members of the 1998 University of Virginia graduating class, Governor Jim Gilmore's commencement speech to them continues to be a deep well of wisdom and guidance even 15 years after it was delivered. Classmates confirmed that while friends at other universities heard from such figures as Jimmy Carter, Kurt Vonnegut, and the Dalai Lama, the inspirational words of Virginia's 68th governor continues to profoundly inform their lives and actions.
Whenever I face a dark moment in my life, I just think back to Governor Gilmore's speech, and it almost instantly puts things back into perspective. It's like he said, go forward and be successful and achieve your hopes and dreams and aspirations. All I can say is I hope I've lived up to that incredible lesson.
And in local news, a 5-year-old figures he has about a year left of peeing at urinals with his pants all the way down.
In other news, using the amount of toothpaste shown in commercials is a disgusting experience. A grizzled proofreader has seen it written both ways, and a cackling Warren Buffett burns his entire fortune in front of the nation.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. We are kicking off the 3rd hour here, and the phones are open, of course. You can join us at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160 with you tonight. We've got Ian,
Matt, and Joa.
And you can bring up anything you want here. You can join us online, of course, over at freetalklive.com. Just had a gentleman call during the news break there, saying he wanted to download last Friday's show because we were talking about how the government gang has no obligation to protect you. And he said he was shocked and really fascinated by that show. And I said, well, you can just go to freetalklive.com. You can go up to the listen menu and click on our MP3 archives and then go back as far as you need to go. And I don't know how many months is easily accessible there, but you can certainly go back to last Friday pretty easily and grab whatever episode you want. But Americans don't know this information.
They don't realize that. No. People don't realize the cops have zero obligation to do anything for you.
And unfortunately, they only usually find out when the pressure's on, when something is happening in their life and they feel like they need some help, and they call the police, and then they don't show up, and then they get upset about it. Right. And then they try to file a lawsuit.
So I was saying earlier
how
I started a waking process when Sam had called in.
Yeah.
So before I got arrested, which is expunged, is that 2 weeks prior to that, the officer that eventually arrested me, he showed up to my house. I had called the police, right? Because some lady let her dog take a dump in front of my house. And I was like, did you even pick it up? And then the next thing you know, she's getting out of her car, like slams on her brakes, gets out of her car, gets right in my face, and spits in my face.
Wow.
I called the cops. They didn't do anything for me. I was shocked. I was like, she just assaulted me, spit in my face. I'm like, I know where she lives. You can go get her. No.
Did they even go talk to her?
They attempted to go to the house that she went, and they asked for the owner of the car. Different person came out of the house. I ended up going to file a complaint at the police station, and they're like, oh, no, this is not a complaint. You can't complain against this because there's nothing on the books that says spitting in your face is illegal.
Oh yeah,
And
I bet if you spit in a cop's face, they would find something.
Well, no. All right. So the only so at that time, spitting only in a correctional officer's face was illegal. And I was like, well,
they would have found something.
That's what they were saying to me, and I was looking
They're
it up. I couldn't
liars.
find it. This is like the only thing that's like on the books. You know what I mean? But it's assault.
It's assault on
Any
a
jury would
police
decide
officer,
that.
yeah, of
And
course.
I just said to the cop that was telling me this while sitting there eating his donuts, I was like, well, let me spit in your face and see what happens. You know,
you're gonna get cuffed and stuffed if that happens.
Of course.
You'd be lucky if they don't beat the hell out of you.
Exactly. So yeah, that was like part of my waking process. Learning that the cops are really not there for you.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a service to be trusted.
Yeah, you call them in, it almost always makes things worse.
Oh yeah, that didn't help me. Wasted my time, so it was worse.
Let's go to your phone calls. Sarah is on the line in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live, Sarah.
I'm getting off the speaker here.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, yes. I just want to mention that. Did you know that thousands of postal workers here in America are attacked by dogs?
Yeah.
And they get bit and they get injured.
Great.
And so.
Wait, what do you
Stop
got?
serving us?
That's fantastic.
What do you got against the post office, man? I mean, they're just trying to bring your mail
we just
to
hate
you.
Conan.
Conan, our Tuesday.
I have something about it. I have something against the dogs, and like you say, that it's technically it's a minor offense. I mean, the whole attitude. Well, was it too bad? Did you get bit badly enough? Do you?
Well, it's a hazard of the
want to do
job. I
about
mean,
it,
you know that's what's going to happen if you are walking around to people's houses. Is dogs are going to get out. They're going to be not tied up or whatever, and some of them are going to be aggressive, and that's why a lot of post office workers carry pepper spray.
Well, see, postal workers, there's good ones and there's bad ones. The good ones carry treats. The bad ones carry the pepper spray.
If there's a crazy ass dog that's trying to bite you, I don't know if pulling out a treat is going to change its mind right on the spot.
Might.
I think I would want to have both
okay.
on hand.
But I think our state, New Mexico, has a pretty bad ranking. I don't know what your ranking is, but we got a bunch of loose dogs that run around crazy everywhere. You know, I'm surprised that I'm not a dogs are going to bite me everywhere. You know what I mean? Because this
do you have like do you have a taser or a pepper or a stun gun or anything like that?
Not really. It's not so bad now, but it's actually a city ordinance. But it's one of those laws that they don't really enforce. Like
what is
spitting
that?
in your
That you
face.
have to have your dog tied up?
Right, you're supposed to always have them on a leash. But I see the owners, they bring out their dogs in the yard in the evening, and they run to another dog, and they almost like tear each other up or something. And it's like, oh, I think it's time for me to take them back home. So, but yeah, and so I think there is like some kind of a, they can't cite you, ticket you, or jail you for if the dogs do injure the postal workers really bad. I'm just bringing it up because it's a really it's a big issue, and they take it.
I thought you said it doesn't happen that often.
Well, I don't know what the often is.
What made you? What made you call in about it tonight?
Well, it happened enough where a lot of people got killed and mauled, especially out in the smaller towns.
Killed?
Smaller town. Yeah, they got
most
mauled.
people
They
don't die during a dog attack.
Oh, yes, they do here in Mexico. I mean, they get pit bulls. They hit the major. You bleed to death if they get your arteries in your armpit.
I
or
guess
your
if you're out in the
leg.
middle of nowhere and you get attacked by a big dog.
Maybe if there was like illegal drag racing going on, they could hit all these stray dogs while smoking the menthols.
Thanks for the call, Sarah. The number is 603-283-6160.
Good call, Joey.
So, we haven't talked about hazing in a long time. You guys didn't go to like a normal college, right? Like with
I went to colleges that were so boring it's not even funny.
So you didn't have the frat hazing stuff going on.
God, no. I mean, I lived in Ithaca, New York for a long time. Cornell University is right there. Ithaca College is right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have frats and they're obnoxious.
I was never a victim of hazing or participated in hazing. Never did any of that.
Yeah, I don't understand the whole phenomenon at all. It seems really crazy to me. Especially when you get stories like this. This is from the Daily Mail over in the UK, but it happened at the University of Missouri, where a student, 19 years old, Danny Santulli, is now paralyzed. He's wheelchair-bound. He cannot speak as a result of the brain damage that he suffered last October. No. He was forced to drink, he chose to hang out with these people, an entire bottle of Tito's vodka. And if that wasn't enough, he was then force-fed beer through a tube. He proceeded to pass out at the Phi Gamma Delta frat house. His lips turned blue, but no one bothered to call 911. Eventually, some of his fraternity brothers drove him to the hospital, but it was too late to undo the damage.
Did he get in? I'm just kidding.
Get into the hospital?
No, I'm not the hospital, the fraternity. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That was my first question, too. I was like, come on, Ian. Quit holding back the punchline, Ian. Did he get in or no?
That's a good question. I don't know if we get those.
Forgive me, please.
I don't know if we get those details here from the story, but kid has brain damage now. And he can't even speak.
I'd say he probably had brain damage to begin with, if that's the type of thing he's willing to do to make friends and, Like, I get it. I know why frats exist. Frats are all about a buddy system going through life. I mean, when you're a part of a frat, you can always put your frat on your resumes and stuff. If you're in, high echelons of society, it might look good. Oh, I was in that frat too. Oh, my grandfather was in that frat and his father before him and stuff like that. So there's a certain amount of network ability goes along with that. But these days, that's totally unnecessary.
Why?
Because you can network with a million people without joining a frat.
Yeah, I mean, it has always just seemed like an excuse to party, but yeah, I've heard those claims about, these are your brothers, these are your friends.
It's a good old boy system.
Your friends wouldn't do this to you. Like, this is a sick, abusive system for abusers to take advantage of people who, they've been told that this is somehow beneficial for them. And it's horrible what happened to this guy. And now, whether he's going to be unable to speak for the rest of his life, he sure as hell can't do it now, and he's in a wheelchair. Dude's got brain damage. They're saying that felony charges should be brought across two of the frat boys specifically in this particular case. The number is 603-283-6160. If you've been involved in hazing, you want to share your story, you're welcome to join us here. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The phones are open, and you can join us. Number 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. Forkfest is coming up, and it is right around the corner at this point. 2 weeks, I think, from now. Starts on the 27th, so just over 2 weeks from today. 2.5 weeks. Forkfest will begin. It's the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival. That kicks off on the 20th. And both of them are happening at the same beautiful location, which is Rogers Campground in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. If you haven't come up to New Hampshire yet, check this place out. This is a perfect opportunity to do so. The Porcupine Freedom Festival is sold out for the 2nd year in a row. If you want to attend that festival, you'll have to find a ticket from somebody that wants to sell one. And from what I understand, there are some people
they're out there
that are doing that. You can go to the porkfest.com to learn more about that event. And then again, Forkfest is kind of like the little brother, if you will, the laid-back competitor that happens the following week. It's not really a competitor because it's not the same week. But it's got more of a laid-back atmosphere. It doesn't have as many attendees. So if you want to take it easy in the woods and enjoy some company with some liberty-minded folks here in New Hampshire, have a perfect excuse to come check out the lay of the land and kick back. Maybe you could do a thing, too. Like, it's a decentralized festival. So if there's something you want to see happen, you kind of got to make it happen. If you want, like a karaoke, you got to bring the karaoke equipment. Right. If you want to do a poker game, you got to bring the poker table and the chips and all that. Mm-hmm. But those things will be happening, I suspect, although I don't know, because we don't have any way to really know what people are going to be bringing to the table. Maybe you want to cook. Maybe you want to make food for people and charge a few bucks or whatever. You can do that.
Bucks? You mean gold, silver?
Gold, indeed.
And
yeah, people love that. Cryptocurrency.
Especially goldbacks.
All of those
big last year.
Yeah, huge. Forkfest.party. You can go there and learn more. It's June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day because they've got a killer fireworks show that happens every year at the hotel, the campground there. They've got like 43 years in a row they've had this amazing fireworks show. You don't want to miss that. Go to forkfest.party and learn more about the event, June 27th through July 3rd. All you need to do to attend is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground. There's no tickets for Forkfest. You just show up.
Good luck with the motel room.
What's that?
I said good luck with that motel room.
What do you mean?
That's probably all sold out.
For Forkfest?
Oh, Forkfest. Oh,
yeah,
right.
the Porcupine Freedom Festival is completely sold out. The campground
is
sold out. There's no spots available at all.
No, but Forkfest you should be able to find.
Yeah, you can get into Forkfest. So if you can't, let us know, because we have no idea what the status is. Where there's no tickets, so we have no idea how many people are going to show up.
I enjoyed Forkfest more so than Porkfest last year.
It's a different crowd. It's kind of it's a
tighter
mix.
crowd.
Some of the same people stay on, but some totally different people show up for.
I've been doing
Forkfest.
2 weeks every year. What year? Say it again. When is Forkfest this year?
The week after.
It's just the week right after Porkfest.
That's correct. Yeah, 27th through the 3rd.
27th through the 3rd
of this month, starting this June 27th. We'll look forward to seeing you there. I'm hoping to be able to attend. I still got to get permission from the court to be able to remove this ankle monitor before I can go, and I'm not going to have that court hearing until next Friday. So it's literally, if I can go, it's going to be like last minute. Okay, you can go, and then I'll be able to head up there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to make plans like this, but you hopefully will be there. I know Free Talk Live will be there, whether I'm there or not. Ari is planning on leading the broadcasts from the campground as she did last year. So we'll see how it goes and keep you in the loop as it develops. But make your plans at forkfest.party. You can learn more about the event there. So we're talking about this hazing that happened. This young guy, 19 years old, so desperate to have some sort of social status, to have some quote-unquote friends, that he was willing to down an entire bottle of vodka, and then subsequently they hooked him up with one of those tubes with the cone at the top or whatever. They pour beer into it, and he funneled beer into his already highly drunken state. They say here in the article at the Daily Mail that he had a blood alcohol content of, was it 0.46?
Wow. That's hard. Isn't like 2 really, really bad for physiologically bad?
Yeah, 486.486. That is more than 6 times the legal limit for driving. I mean, that is, you are near to death.
Yeah, that's poisoning.
At
really
that
bad.
point.
And how do you go paralyzed? Is this like neurological damage?
I would imagine.
Yeah, brain damage.
That's a terrible way. That's a terrible.
Or when they were pouring beer down their throat, they might have drowned him a little bit and had loss of oxygen to the brain or something like that too.
That's wild.
It says here that he was at this fraternity, this big party. One of these kids has been charged with a misdemeanor for providing alcohol to a minor. Another has not been charged. The family did previously sue 23 people, including the fraternity, and won the case with an undisclosed settlement. They're now suing 2 of the individual frat boys in this case, and he is now monitored around the clock. He's going to likely need 24-hour monitoring, maybe for the rest of whatever kind of quote-unquote life he is able to have.
I really want to feel for people like this, but I don't and I can't.
Because you're that stupid. He's just that stupid. This is Darwinism.
Your Darwin Award, pal. Good for you. How many more? Anybody else want to step up to that plate? Because this is good. More is better.
I think it is still important to make people aware that this stuff goes on, so people can make better choices. I mean, young people aren't known for making good choices in certain cases, and it's certainly possible that somebody who is getting drunk can make even worse choices in that case.
Yeah. I don't get drunk really either, though,
yeah.
So I'm
well, you're also not 19 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
What were you doing then?
Well, I don't know if I should say on the
air. So yeah, I mean, it's a sad story. I'm kind of with you on this, Matt. It's like, oh well, he should have known what he was getting into and shouldn't have done this in the first place. But there are people that need to know that this stuff happens, and whoever these people are in this fraternity, it's like, you don't want to know these people for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
These
right.
are not your friends. They're not doing you any favors.
No.
They're sick people who are just abusing lonely guys.
Yeah,
right?
they'll probably grow up to be senators.
Right.
What they do is like they'll have hazing, but since you got hazed so bad, it's almost like, well, it can't be as bad as mine. It's gonna be worse. It's like, so they always trump it up, and over
Try
years
to amp up the levels.
Yeah, it's just progressively gets worse and worse.
Quote, he's still not talking or walking. He's in a wheelchair. He lost his vision. He hears us, and he knows we're there. She says, we're not going to give up hope. This is his mother who's making those statements. His sister said, quote, it makes me sick to my stomach seeing the people involved that harmed Danny walking around campus acting like they did nothing wrong.
Oh, she goes to the same school?
It sounds like it. The, amended lawsuit against them details how they and others who were previously sued and who settled those lawsuits force-fed Santilli beer and gave him a bottle of Tito's to drink when he passed out and went into cardiac arrest. They finally drove him to the hospital. Now he's unlikely to walk, talk, or see again. His mother has quit her job in banking to care for him full-time. According to the lawsuit, the pair wanted to make the night one, quote, the pledges wouldn't forget, unquote, so filled the frat house with cocaine, marijuana, and alcohol. The new pledges had bottles of Tito's taped to their hands and were branded pussies if they stopped drinking, according to documents revealed by the Daily Mail. It also claims they were under caution from the school for a previous hazing incident at the time. But school didn't do anything to stop this. And
we got to sue the school.
Well, they did.
Oh, they did?
They did, and they got a settlement. Undisclosed settlement. The number here is 603-283-6160. You can share your thoughts, and this is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From a Feature Story News in Washington, D.C., I'm Benji Haya. Former President Donald Trump is to blame for inciting the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. That's according to lawmakers unveiling evidence during a series of historic hearings in Congress. 17 months after the most violent assault on the U.S. Capitol in more than 200 years, in the very building it took place, the House committee investigating what its chair calls an attempted coup laid out its initial findings in vivid detail.
Donald Trump was at the center of this conspiracy. And ultimately, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, spurred a mob of domestic enemies of the Constitution to march down the Capitol and subvert American democracy.
Donald Trump calls the committee a disgrace. Meanwhile, a Republican running for governor in Michigan has been arrested by the FBI for his involvement in the January 6th riot, as Caroline Malone reports.
Ryan Kelly is the first person running for election in a major federal or state race to be charged in connection with the January 6th attack. He's a Republican candidate for governor in Michigan, but was arrested on Thursday morning, according to the FBI. A spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. said he'd been charged with 4 misdemeanors: committing violence against a person or property on restricted grounds, damaging federal property, disorderly conduct, and entering restricted areas.
In other news, 2 Britons captured by Russian forces in Ukraine have been sentenced to death alongside a Moroccan national after being charged of being mercenaries whilst appearing in an unrecognised court in the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic. UK nationals Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner and Moroccan national Saldan Brahim had been fighting in the Ukrainian military before being captured in Mariupol by Russian troops. Our UK correspondent Ollie Barrett says the government in London has put out a strong statement in response.
We have words from a spokesman for Number 10, deeply concerned by this. We have said, goes on the statement, continually that prisoners of war shouldn't be exploited for political purposes. It talks then, the statement, about the Geneva Convention, which says that prisoners of war are entitled to combatant immunity and shouldn't be prosecuted for participation in hostilities. So in terms of what the government does next, this statement from Downing Street concludes that we will continue to work with the Ukrainian authorities to try and secure the release of any British nationals who were serving in the Ukrainian armed forces and who are being held as prisoners of war. So that is the statement from the UK government. We also have a statement from Robert Jenrick, who is the one of the family MPs. He says that it's a disgusting Soviet-era show trial.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. You can bring up whatever you want. 603-283-6160. Do you have any experience with hazing? Because it's back in the news with a kid that didn't quite die, but is basically a walking corpse at this point. No, he's not walking. He's in a wheelchair, and he can't speak, and is probably going to have to be looked after 24 hours a day for whatever remains of his sad life after attending a hazing at Mizzou, which is what they call, I guess, the University of Missouri or something like that. Anyway, this can happen anywhere. And in fact, according to the story at the Daily Mail, it has happened to at least a few hundred people. Few hundred have died. So 200 people have died due to various different hazings in just the last 20 years in the United States. Of course, you know, there's always talk about how the school's going to make sure to crack down on this sort of behavior, but yet it just keeps on keeping on.
And you know what? Anybody who follows that kind of, like, if you're the type of person that's going to, you know, do whatever you're told in order to get into some kind of club, I got bad news for you. You're not leadership material.
You're always going to be a follower.
You're always going to be a follower. You are a loser. And that is a sad, cold fact. So start banking on being middle management at best, if that. And that's only because you knew somebody.
Aren't like the richest people in the world dropouts? A lot
Some
of them.
Some of them, yeah.
A lot of them.
Very
like
successful.
Elon and yeah.
Was it the Wendy's guy? Didn't the Wendy's guy drop out
Dave
of high
Thomas,
school?
yeah.
I think he dropped out of high school. Yeah. So, college, of course, is way overblown as far as its value is concerned. And as you pointed out, Matt, these fraternities are even less valuable than they've ever been.
Totally.
But let's go to your calls and thoughts. We got Lysander Knapp on the line here calling from Indiana. You're on Free Talk Live, Lysander.
Hey, how you doing? I'm calling about that hazing thing because you asked me to call in if I had experience. And my past experience of being a murderer in the Marine Corps gives me plenty of experience with hazing. And more nefarious than anything, we used it to weed out the snitches.
Really?
So we used it to make ourselves a better killer squad. It's disgusting.
How does that work?
Basically, you don't do any hazing that's going to, get you busted down or kicked out, but you do enough to where you get in trouble for it. And then whoever snitched, they need to go to headquarters squad.
And what is headquarters squad?
They just handle all the paperwork of the infantry battalion. So they're not really out there fighting and doing the dirty work. Mm-hmm. So that's how we used it to, if they snitched on us for hazing, they're going to snitch on us for doing
other things,
like war crimes and stuff.
Yeah, war crimes and stuff.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's dark.
I'm not bragging at all.
You know what? I have more respect. I don't like military. I don't recommend anybody ever join a military. But I got
absolutely not.
And I don't like military people, and I'm unapologetic about that. But I have loads of respect, and I count them among some of my most revered friends, former military people who speak up about stuff.
The truth about what
hats off
happens.
To you, dude. High five. Just thank God there's some honest people coming out of there saying, this is how it really is, and this is what we did and stuff. That's great.
Wow.
Yeah. So when people go, oh well, they're not committing war crimes. It's like, no, they culled their squads to be full of non-snitches, so they can commit war crimes.
Right.
Don't pretend they're not committing war crimes.
Right, and this is a thing that gets passed down over the years. Somebody came up with this, and over generations or whatever, it's been a tradition, right?
Yeah, it's culture.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Hazing is like, it's expected. It's used as a joke and a threat at the same time. Someone messes up, you're like, I'm going to haze you later. It's just kind of thrown around laughingly, but it's like the whole...
kind of pseudo-threating.
It's a threat for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they'll use it as a threat, but ultimately, like I said, it's just there to make better killer squads. And that's how I saw it anyway.
Thanks for sharing that.
That's really all I have. That's all I have. Good talk.
All right, man. Awesome. Thanks for calling and sharing that here tonight. I definitely did not expect that to come up. Wow.
I kind of did expect it to come up. I didn't expect anybody to call in and say it, though. I knew there's people. I know that happens in the military, and
I knew hazing happened, but I didn't. I'd never heard the reason.
The reason for it. Yeah, right. That's pretty fascinating, isn't it?
That's way darker,
and it
than
makes
I
tons of
expected.
sense. It makes all the sense in the world. It's like it's self-regulation in a way. It really is natural self-regulation.
I would say in high school, like the worst hazing that I ever heard of was that 3 hockey players sodomized another kid with a hockey stick.
Oh my God.
And
I remember
they all got in trouble for that.
Yeah, I remember hearing stuff. We had a guy on the show back when we were in Florida who talked about being on the football team and how they would haze people sexually in the locker room. All these real tough jocks or whatever. They would.
It's very vulnerable.
I can't even
in there,
say
you know?
what they were supposedly doing.
Yep.
It was
terrible.
Quite inappropriate.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre.
But then you got all these politicians being hazed on Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Sure.
You know,
and they get video of that, I'm sure. So just a little bit more here from the story of the Daily Mail. Quote, he was sleep deprived, was having to buy things for fraternity brothers with his own money, and was repeatedly ordered to clean their rooms and bring food, alcohol, and marijuana to them at all hours of the night.
Wow.
Making matters worse, during the pledging process, Danny had been ordered to climb inside a trash can that had broken glass in it, the lawsuit reads. 2 nights before the incident, he told his sister he'd had enough. His family told him to quit the fraternity, but he said he didn't want to because he, quote, wasn't a quitter, unquote.
He probably got guilt into that thought, too, you know.
He's an extremely dedicated loser.
Yeah, and now he has. Now he's on like I said, he's in a wheelchair and probably never going to be an independently operating human ever again. It's just a sad story, and it's like, kids don't go to college. Number one, there's really no reason to unless you absolutely have to for whatever the purpose. Maybe you want to be a doctor or something. Right?
Government employee.
You've got to. But if you can avoid going to college, save yourself the $100,000 and put it towards something. If you've got that kind of money, if your parents gave it to you or something like that, open up a business or buy a house or do something that you can't live in a diploma. You can live in a house. Do something with that.
Or like
money.
some of those guys that are in college for like 10 years because they learn how to market the kids at the college. That's the only reason to go to college, to learn how to market the kids at the college.
To market the kids?
Yeah, like the drug dealers and that sort of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know if those are actually going to college. You don't have to go to college to be a college drug dealer. Just show up on campus and you know who to talk to.
The most successful ones, if anything, they should be your friend. They're going to teach you something about marketing.
Yeah, that's real business.
I'm not saying really guys go deal drugs at college. But you get my point, that like these kids have already figured it out. Yeah. They understand economics early on, and
those
they're successful.
Kids do.
Yeah,
the ones in the fraternities, they don't appear to be the brightest bulbs in the basket.
No, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if you can avoid going, you should avoid going and then do something productive with that time and money because it's all really overblown. But if you are there, man, and you can't make friends on your own, you can't go find an interest. You don't have some sort of, there's clubs or whatever, right? Like, go join a club and make some friends that have a similar interest besides just, we're crunk.
Well, see, he thinks that
every night.
He thought when he was like cleaning their rooms and getting them whatever they wanted, he knew that like if he passed the test, he's going to have someone doing that for him. Yeah,
that's the idea. It's a cycle of abuse.
Oh yeah,
right? I'm glad I went to. I only went to community college, and even that was a waste of time. So I wish.
Yes, it was.
I wish I could have those years back. But oh well. What are you going to do? Let's talk to Jack. He's in Washington State. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I want to talk about supernatural things, but with the hazing, we all did pranks, though. I mean, if they're harmless, isn't that kind of like a type of hazing? Like I put icy hot in someone's underwear when they're showering, and they come out. It was hilarious and harmless. So isn't there like a line between that and...
Yeah, I would say there is a line between a prank and hazing. I mean, hazing is more of like this sort of thing you have to pass through in order to get to this next tier of status, right? Whereas a prank is just something that people do to one another, and if it's harmless, then it's no big deal. Hazing, at least when it gets into the news, usually involves something that's highly risky, that you could possibly, lose your life from, or lose a limb, or lose some brain cells permanently. But Jack, I know you had some other things to talk about here, so stand by. UFOs and such coming up here on Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at MyMagicMud.com. FTL20, MyMagicMud.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Matt,
And Joa, sorry.
And Joa's here from Breaking the Flaw. You can check him out over on his Odyssey channel. Just head over to video.freetalklive.com and search for Breaking the Flaw in the search, and you'll find Joa's channel there.
Just posted a video the other day. So.
Really? What was it?
Oh, yeah, I guess it's an interesting story. A cop was fired because...
That's unusual.
Yeah.
What did you do, and how do we replicate it?
Well, this could be a free speech issue, but he did get tattooed pure on one hand on the fingers, and on the other hand, evil.
Whoa, what? Where was this?
Man, I can't remember now.
So not New Hampshire?
No, it's not New Hampshire. I think it was decided with a C. There's like Chicago, Cincinnati.
Okay, so one of the big cities.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just like, there was enough outrage in the public to be like, this guy cannot be on the force. Like, he has already intentions of being evil.
Did they find that he had some allegations against him at all, or was it just somebody didn't like his tattoo?
Yes, he had the lowest possible ranking before you basically either get put on desk duty or fired already. So they were just questioning more about him, and his tattoos kind of revealed it all. I mean, come on, what's the hire? Oh yeah, you're the chief, and you're like, yeah, you're hired, and you're shaking the guy's hand with pure evil on it,
right?
Like, oh my god,
they'll take anyone.
yeah. I guess they're really desperate.
Well, he was already a cop, though. It's just he decided to get this tattoo while he was a cop, and then they fired him for it.
No, and everybody who worked with him probably knew exactly what his deal was.
I'm pretty sure it was already on him when he got hired.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. These look like old tattoos.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder how many years he was there before they blew him out.
You know what they're offering? They're offering to get his tattoos removed.
Oh my god!
So he can keep his job.
So then
do you not already know his intention? His intention's already pure evil.
Is it the police union?
I think the police. Yeah, the police union was offering you can get it removed and you can get back on the force.
Wow.
But don't you already know? It's already public at this point. But
it's all about visuals. It's all about
it's all about the
think.
optic, and they don't care what the reality is.
Wow.
You know what's gonna be interesting is what if he gets rehired, right? Like another department gives him a call and be like, hey, well, we need officers. Come on in. That's exactly the department he's going to want to go to.
You know where he should go to work? There's a small area right across the border in Massachusetts here called Satan's Kingdom. It'd be great they need a cop down there.
Is it really?
There you go.
Yeah.
Why do they call it that?
I don't know, but it's really what it's called. Look it up on the map.
Which one are you talking about? Which town are you talking about?
It's right across the border from Fitzwilliam.
Okay.
And Athol area. It's
it's actually called Satan's
Kingdom.
Lowell is pretty bad with cops. It might be Lowell.
Okay.
That's not just what people call it?
No,
that's what the
called.
Actual town name is?
Bring it up on Google Maps.
Oh my God.
Let's go back to Jack. He's on the line in Washington. Go ahead, Jack. What were you calling about tonight?
Just real quick on hazing. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of personal choice there. I want to move past that. First, have you guys ever played the Ouija board?
Oh, yeah.
I played 3 or 4 times, and I had 15, 20 religious, sober people in the room, teenagers. When I was 16. We could grab a pack of cigarettes, a book off the bookcase, set it on the board, switch out the users, and that thing was still picking the page, saying how many cigarettes were in the pack. I mean, some supernatural stuff going on. And I don't know if you guys have ever played it and had similar experiences. That's all.
Matt, what was your experience with it?
I've never.
It was moving.
No, not Jack. Matt. Matt said he did.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I've played I don't like those things at all.
Mm-hmm. You think there's something to it, or is it
definitely
just another person that's
No. I definitely think I definitely think there's something to them. They go back way further than Milton Bradley or whoever mass manufactured them. I think it's I think those types of things are best left to people who are experts in the field of using the things, like practicing witches and things like that. People who can not only open doorways but also shut them. I think it's I just don't like them. I definitely don't like them being mass marketed. And in reality, you can draw out the symbols on a brown paper bag with a magic marker, and it's the same thing. Draw the lines in the dirt and be the exact same thing. So
we burnt it, and it actually whistled. We put it into the stove.
Creepy.
Yeah, and it whistled, and it said it would whistle. That's why we put it in there. These are, again, religious teenagers, you know.
Yeah, it's as far as I know from the witchcraft point of view, it is inadvisable to burn a Ouija board. I myself have burned one as well, and it burned down to the last cell fiber of that Ouija board, burnt to an ash, and there was nothing left of it. Yeah, I don't like them. I don't advise people playing with them. They're not toys. They're bad. They can be very, very bad.
I never messed with one again. I was reading an Archie comic. Keep in mind, I'm like 16, and I lived in a duplex next to my mother, and this is in Washington again. But I was sitting there reading it like a lazy boy, and all my kitchen drawers in this tiny little 2-bedroom duplex started opening and closing all by themselves.
Just because you were reading an Archie comic?
No, we had all that Ouija board energy in there or something.
So, but this was like after you'd used the board. You were then just later on.
After we had burnt it, and I ran over. I ran over to my mom's house. She lived on the other side of the duplex, and I screamed like, she didn't appreciate what I'd just gone through.
Damn, that's crazy.
But I went back to my duplex. I opened all the windows, all the doors to see if those cabinets would move an inch. No movement. They opened, they closed, and I think we'd already burnt the Ouija board, but we may have burnt it after.
So,
because that obviously.
I have a friend that's a warlock / demonologist, and he was saying that Ouija boards can't be bought by Milton Bradley, and that
can't be bought.
You can't buy a legit Ouija board. That they have to be built by a certain type of people, like a witch or something like that.
I don't agree with that.
And it cannot be touched by anybody else. Or it can't be practiced before. So you buy it, it's yours. You can't sell it again because I guess whatever conjurings that you do with it are attached to it. So if you try to sell it to somebody else, they could,
Yeah, that little teardrop thing was moving on that board, period. It was moving. I played it. We'd switch up other people randomly, just like people that were just showed up. All right, you go. We're testing it, kind of.
Typically, if the thing is moving, like a regular dead human, a regular human ghost, they really haven't figured out how to use their lack of body to touch things physically. So typically, if something is moving an object that is stationary in our world on its own,
it's some other kind of force.
It's something that's been around a lot longer and has figured those talents out.
It's a demon.
I guess the craziest Ouija board story I have is I was going to this Mill Space party in Providence, and they had painted this in white paint on a big white floor. It's an old mill building. It's a wooden floor. A big Ouija board. And then this girl comes out with sort of this lacy see-through nightgown, and she has roller skates on, and that's all she's wearing, so you can see right through it. And she's apparently tripping hard on acid and started just roller skating around on the Ouija board and falling over, and they're recording where she's falling. I'm like, what? This is weird.
Wow.
There was a really interesting art gallery going on there.
Jack, thanks for calling with the story. Very creepy. Appreciate hearing from you tonight. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. There's some things out there that, you just can't explain.
Yep.
Some things I don't want to tap into, so I don't, It's like I don't want to talk to people from the death realm. It's kind of weird. They're dead for a reason. Leave them alone.
I've talked to tons of dead people. They're mostly just normal people. They're just dead.
Okay.
They're just dead. But some of them are crazy. Some of them are.
So you can still be crazy after death?
Oh yeah, people are weird, man, and they don't stop being weird just because they die.
That figures.
That's true. Yeah.
Satan's Kingdom is an unincorporated village in the town of Northfield, Franklin County, Massachusetts.
There it is.
Satan's Kingdom is 1.5 miles northwest of Northfield and is near the Vermont border. It's been noted for its unusual place name. It is named Satan's Kingdom after a resident of Northfield walked out of a church where a sermon about the fires of hell had just been given and saw a forest fire across the Connecticut River and observed that Satan's kingdom was burning.
So it's not far from here.
No, it's really close.
Not far at all.
We're really close to it.
Right outside of the county border, I guess.
45 minutes.
But it doesn't look like there's really anything else going on in Satan's Kingdom. It's an unincorporated village, right?
It's a great place for a bad cop.
Nothing there.
Put him in the middle of nowhere.
If there is a cop, right? Unincorporated village probably doesn't have much going on at all.
Right.
Out of time for tonight, but yeah, you don't want to be in... basically, all of Massachusetts is Satan's kingdom, as far as I'm concerned.
Basically.
Place is hell. Out of time for tonight. You can join us online between now and tomorrow over at freetalklive.com. We're expecting to have Mark come back on, let's see, Saturday night? No. Yeah, Saturday night. He should be back, so that'll be fun. We'll talk to you online in the meantime. freetalklive.com. Check out our social media site at social.freetalklive.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is